Here we go. 4, 3, 2. Henry Rollins, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, fella?
I'm better now being here with you.
I'm better now that you're here. We were just talking about a show that you and Ted Nugent, apparently. Did you pitch it? Who pitched the show?
It was an idea that my manager Heidi and I came up with. Well, mostly Heidi. It was called basically Henry and. You put me and someone I might have some disagreements with, or a few agreements with, and we just go somewhere and we weigh in with a camera following us. And we're thinking it'll be like a 6-part miniseries, like, me and plus 6 interesting people. And one of the names that came up was Ted Nugent, because I'm a fan of his music. I think he's one of the best guitar players I've ever seen. Yet he and I would probably disagree on one or a few topics. And so we actually pitched it to Ted, who said he loved the idea, but he said, I got to go on. I'm busy with it. He had a ton of tour dates, so I think he's on now. But he said, I want to talk to Henry to thank him for thinking of me. Okay. And so Ted called, like on my phone in the office. I guess he got my number from the powers that be. And suddenly it's Ted on my phone. I'm at my desk like, okay, this is surreal. And we talked for a few minutes, and he said, like, what, you think I'm a bad guy? I'm like, no, I just, some of the things you say, I it kind of takes my breath away. And then we quickly got on the topic of music. He said, you like all that old Detroit music? I go, yeah, man. I mean, you, Mitch Ryder, the Stooges, MC5. I mean, it's kind of the best. It's some of the best music I've ever heard. I mean, I asked him, I go, what is it? Is something in the water? What is it with you Michigan guys in guitar tone? Like, no one gets tone. Like you, Ron Ashton, Stooges, Fred Sonic Smith, MC5. I go, you guys, I mean, you're so good. And he said, we gotta hang out sometime and we'll just talk about music. I went, I'll do that with you. So I'll be taking notes. And he was just telling me, like, yeah, I used to hang out at the MC5 house and go see the Stooges. And I'm like, you're killing me. Because this is like, that would have been heaven for me to see those bands like back in 1969 or whatever.
When did you know him? Did you know him back in the day, or did you only speak to him recently?
As a punter, I would go see him like in high school in the 1870s, Carter administration. I'd go see him play in my local arena in Washington, D.C. in a place called the Capitol Center in Largo, Maryland. And he was as good as rock and roll gets. I mean, I saw the Double Live Gonzo lineup, and like, forget it. It was like 2.5 hours of just getting beat up by music. It was fantastic. And to this day, it's still a high watermark as far as gigs. And in the 90s, I met him on Politically Incorrect Bill Maher. And I said, hey, man, I'm a big fan. And he gave me a bow hunting catalog. I'm like, well, thanks, for his whack master.
Right.
You get the croquet mallet and the bow. Anyway, I kept it because I'm a fan. And then I met him years later, and I did his radio show, like St. Patrick's Day 1997, to crassly promote my next record. And I said, we met years ago, and we got to talking for like a couple of hours. And it was just about music, and I played him some of my new record, which he really liked. And between the commercial breaks, he was like playing riffs for me. We had a little headphone amp, and he was sitting across from me on a stool playing. And I'm like, this is pretty cool. And so that's the kind of relationship I have with him, where you read some of the things he says, you're like, okay, that's really hard to take. But those records, they're just so good to me. And I saw him play in 2000, opening for Kiss, 2001, somewhere in there. And he was great. The tone, the playing, just fantastic. And so he's just an interesting bunch of guys.
A bunch of guys.
You know what I mean? Because like, he can finish a sentence. He's not stupid. He's hilarious. He has a steel trap memory. But then he'll just say, the Obama's a subhuman mongrel. Like, man, you don't need to talk like that.
Right.
Because there's people you will inspire to punch some black guy in the parking lot for no reason. Like, something bad can happen if you talk like that to the millions of people who love you. Like someone will get that message and they'll go south with it.
Yeah.
And when you're in that position, I don't believe in self-censorship, but I think you should be careful of what you say. I think there's some merit in having some control of yourself. And so I don't completely understand the guy.
There's currency and outrageousness. That's what it is. And you cash in by being the guy that says things I can't believe what he just said. And then you become the guy that goes places and says things that no one can believe that you're saying.
You know, I know that there's some people, that's how they get their next book deal or whatever.
Yeah.
For myself, I would never want to trade in that, because my reality coming up through punk rock and all of that is very, very immediate, in that I don't say anything about anybody without expecting them to hear it. And with me turning the next corner, like going to my car in your parking lot, and having that person waiting for me at the car saying, hey, you said this, and having them be able to hold it up on a tablet and say it. And so I watch what I say, because in my mind, I answer. I will have to answer to all of it. And so I would never say something where someone goes, really? Well, today's the day we're going to see who can kick whose ass. Because, you know, men have this wrong idea that they can't be beat. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Anyone can get knocked on their ass. You think you're tough? There's always, you're in the business of tough guys. There's always a tougher guy around the corner.
There's always a tougher guy. But more than that, it's like most of the conflict that you get in when you're talking shit about somebody, like someone like you or I can do an interview and talk shit about someone and then go public and you don't think twice about it. But then now it extends to social media and pretty much anybody could do it at any time, and it just seems so easy to do. But I always try to think, if that person was in front of me, how would I treat it? And if I would say fuck this guy, like when he's in front of me, then I have a real problem with this person.
Sure.
It's a real bad person.
But I would always wait until I was in front of that person. And I have waited. I've bided my time with people I don't like, and you get into a conversation. And I have said, very calmly, I think you're a ridiculous person. I think you're a standing, walking, talking billboard for cowardice.
Sometimes people need to hear that too, because sometimes people don't hear that. They don't hear that from someone.
Yeah, I'm not trying to help the guy.
Yeah, but you are. But believe me.
But I waited.
Yeah, you waited
until I was there. The
Yeah.
only people I'll rip on are politicians. Like some member of Congress, I think, is just an inactive waste of food. That I'll say anywhere, hoping it'll bring him to me so I can say it to his or her face. But for the most part, the way I was brought up in the world of music and the street is, if you say something, that guy will be lining you up for a broken jaw. Mm-hmm. So you better mean it, but maybe just wait until you guys are in a room and see what you really want to say. Because sniping from a windowless room from somewhere, or being a keyboard activist, that doesn't mean much to me.
Yeah, I think, Ted is the spokesperson for the right in that he's this contrast in so many ways. He's this wild, and it used to be long hair. He doesn't have long hair anymore, but long-haired guitar player from Michigan. I mean, he's Ted Nugent. He should be a drug user or something, right? He should be on tour all the time, but he's the opposite. He doesn't do any drugs, doesn't drink, and he's super right-wing, and he supports, the Second Amendment and guns, and he's in this group of, and he has some very strong beliefs that he really does hold in that group. But then comes the outrageous stuff that he says, and you would get a mischaracterization of him because of some of the things he says. But if you meet him like in person to person, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
I talk to him all the time. We text each other.
That's only been my experience with him.
He's a great guy.
I've had really cool conversations with him.
Yeah.
And I'm a hyper fan of the records. I mean, it's gospel to me that those records are in my DNA.
Yeah,
perfect.
I'm with you in that I don't know what fuels those
and I just don't get
statements.
it. I'm not here to rip on him. I just honestly I can't reconcile the conversations I've had where he's super friendly and happy that you're a fan of the guy, and then you watch some things he says on some stage somewhere, and you're like, wow, that just bummed out my whole evening. That's like,
yeah.
Okay, Like, that's you. That's the First Amendment. Go do your thing. But like, wow,
There's currency in that, though. I really think that getting that charge out of it, saying that outrageous thing, it keeps the ball rolling in some way.
boy, it's not a ball I'd want to roll, though.
I don't want to roll that ball either.
It just doesn't seem sustainable.
No. Speaking of sustainable, I hear you have a Showtime special coming out tomorrow night.
Wow, that was a great segue.
It's pretty good,
Yeah,
right?
that was a
I should be on
fantastic
radio,
segue.
dude.
Yeah.
I should get a real radio show.
Yeah. Yeah, Joe
just wanna
non sequitur Rogan.
Rip it on Ted Nugent. I don't know where we go. I
yeah.
like Ted.
Yeah, so do I. Showtime special tomorrow, Friday. What's tomorrow? The 11th?
The 10th.
The 10th, sorry. Friday, August 10th, 10 p.m. East Coast, West Coast, Showtime. It's called Keep Talking, Pal. And so
There it is.
10 seconds on that. They said, what are you going to name it? And I said, Keep Talking, Pal. They go, what does that mean? It's how you talk yourself in and out of trouble. Like you're about to get punched out. Like, keep talking, pal. Like if you don't get a laugh, you're not getting out of this bar. And that's kind of how I came into talking shows, was being, as a young guy, skinny, on Ritalin, not a good fighter at all, just not into it. And, the local bully, I've said something snarky or funny, and, all of a sudden he's got me by the scruff of my shirt with a fist in my face. And the only thing you can do is, like, imitate him so much that everyone else laughs, and, like, he has to drop you because he's now, like, drop your collar, not your body, because you're now making him laugh. And so when in doubt, keep talking, pal. And the fact that I have a, quote, comedy special on Showtime is so unlikely from some guy from the minimum wage working world. I don't believe it myself. And so they said, what are you going to call it? And a lot of these, people, they have a lot of confidence. I'm going to call it like
Destruction.
Me and my mighty Wang take to the stage. I don't have any of that. So like, keep talking, pal, because I know I'm really not supposed to be there. So...
How did you do your first show? Like, what made you do your first talking show?
$5. 1983, a little venue on Hudson, right off of, like, about 10 paces north of Santa Monica Boulevard. It's like a street that dead ends onto Santa Monica Boulevard. It was an art space there called the Lhasa Club. And there was a local promoter in town, amazing guy, and he would get like 25 people on stage in one night. Everyone gets 5 minutes. And it'd be the singer of that band, the drummer of that band, that artist, that poet, like real artists who speak for a living, and then the guy with a funny tour journal, or the guy from the band that we all like, and he's going to be an idiot for 5 minutes. And these shows were really fun because it just people on and off stage all night long, like running off stage. And the bass player in Black Flag, Chuck Tukowski, fantastic intellect, he would get invited onto these bills. I would go with him because we were beach guys. We lived in the sticks, and the gigs were in Hollywood. So we'll go into the big smoke. We'll go see the big city. I'd go with him because he had the band van. He'd go into town. I'd tag along. So he'd read out of some notebook his apocalyptic rantings. And one night the promoter said, you got a big mouth. Next week, 5 minutes, or like whatever, 7 minutes, $5. All I could think of was the $5 and like what I could, because we were starving, as any band was. And so the next show, I got on stage at Lhasa, told a story about what had happened at band practice the day before, where a white supremacist in a car tried to run over our guitar player because we had brown-skinned people at our band practice. And so he yelled, he accused our guitar player of being a beep lover and tried to run him over on his way to the liquor store to get some orange juice. So our guitar player comes back a little shaken. I nearly got run over by a neo-Nazi, and let's go back to practice. And so for us, that was this Tuesday in the life of Black Flag. For an audience, they're like, huh, you hear jaws hit the ground. And then I read something I'd written. I go, well, my 5 minutes are up, or whatever it was, and I left the stage. And it felt right. I felt like a fish dropped into water for the first time. Like, hey, I'm a fish. Like, I didn't have a band, but I had no stage fright. And just me and a microphone, it felt more natural than music ever felt, which was cool to do, but never felt natural. It just felt like this thing is in me. It's got to come out. I'm serving a monster. Where the talking show's like, yeah, this is me. And after the show, people came up and said, when's your next show? I said, well, I'm leaving on tour. They go, no, when you're just talking. I said, well, no, that's a one-off. I got this $5 bill. I'm out of here. And so the agent, the promoter guy said, okay, you're very good at that. You're a natural. So how about this? I promote all these different poets and performance artists. I'll give you $20. You'll do 20 minutes opening for this guy. Okay. So I, did 20 minutes. And then after a handful of those shows, those poet types were opening for me because the Black Flag aspect kicks in. Like, oh, he's the dude from Black Flag. People show up. And I guess I was good enough. And so those poets weren't that happy. Like, I'm now opening for this guy? Okay. And that was 83 turning into 84. By 85, I had gone to Europe for some poetry festival, which I kind of blagged onto in Holland. I had done a cross-country tour, 12 to 50 people a night, sleep on the promoter's couch, go by Amtrak. And started my little book company, 83, 84, self-published to this day.
That's awesome.
And it went
That's
from
very
strength
cool.
to strength. And now it's a 14-month tour that takes in 20 countries, multiple nights in cities at nice theaters.
Do you only use yourself for your publishing company, or do you publish anybody else's books?
We used to. Many years ago, people I knew who I thought were great writers, I put them out. We licensed Nick Cave's books from his publishers in Europe. We licensed a few different titles. We did photo books and a couple of novels, short story collections. And it's very hard to have a book company. It's hard to sell a book in the world unless it's like Stephen King or Danielle Steele, like mega, at the cash register at the airport store. If you're selling poetry books, different kinds of literature, you are nothing but uphill. My books did okay. They always do okay. Everyone else's books is like trying to sell dead animal guts. You know what I mean? Like no one's that interested. They'll look, but they don't want to take it home. And so we stopped signing new writers, sold through the press runs, let the licenses run out. Everyone got to keep their masters. And then we just concentrated on me because I keep a whole staff busy with all the stuff I've got going. And so we publish, but we publish me. And I've done a bunch of books.
How many books have you written?
About 27.
Holy shit, that's so crazy.
Well, I got nothing else going on. All but two of them. I wanted to do a photo book a few years ago. And Heidi, who runs all my company, she's the smart one. So I showed her the manuscript. She goes, okay, the book is great, but let's not do it on our company because it's a lot of startup money for a photo book. It's just a lot of setup cost. Let's get you a literary agent and do it somewhere else. And so smart idea. And so we got a literary agent, and we did get a book deal with a very good Chicago. It's a Chicago company. Chicago Review? I'm forgetting. And they put out the photo book. And that was a learning experience, like working with an editor. Like, I'll go, well, here's the cover. And they go, well, we're going to have a meeting about that. And I'm like, you're having a meeting? It's my book. It's my book cover. Because I'm used to owning my own machine. But when you work with other people's money, everyone has a big opinion. So that book came out and did and continues to do very well. And many years ago, I did a kind of a best of, if I have any best of material, I did a best of for Random House many, many years ago that you still see. It's in print. And that's a lot of people's first book of mine because it's in stores. We pulled my company's books out of circulation because of Amazon, because they can actually sell it cheaper than we can, because they don't mind making 5 cents on a book because they're selling 80 billion books a second. So we pulled ourselves out of distribution, and now it's very much the website and at live shows. And we have less returns. We don't get a pallet of damaged books coming back that were, abused in some bookstore in a shopping mall in the Midwest, like heavily thumbed but never taken home.
So you can't buy your books off of Amazon unless it's a third-party seller?
Right. And it would
so
never
you just
be us.
sell them on your own?
Yep. And you might not sell as many, but you don't get 1,100 returns.
You got 1,100 returns?
Well, you know what I
really
mean.
that
Like,
bad?
well, when we were selling everyone else's books too, you'd get like a pallet of like books that look like a dog chewed them, or like remainder stickers. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And so I am extraordinarily small of fame. I sell lots of books. They do great as ebooks as well. In fact, that's kind of overtaking. I'm not an ebook guy. I like to take a marker and mark books up. And so I buy paper ones. But apparently the real world likes to read on their tablet. And so all my books are on that platform, thanks to Heidi. And apparently they sell very well. I don't keep track. I just write them. I don't count them.
If you had to suggest to somebody a good book of yours to start with, what would you say to start with? If I was going to read your books, what should I start with?
Oh, I would tell you to read Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. I would just tell you read a real writer. Get in the van. My Tour Journals from Black Flag is just people like that book. It's in a bunch of different languages. It's just a cool, insane read of like living this very feral life, like, fighting women and music and relative poverty. So that's a fun one to start.
Sure.
I like the travel books I've been writing the last few years. I have these. I write when I travel all over the world, and so I write these books from these places, like from a ship in Antarctica, from a tent in the deserts of Timbuktu, and those travel books I like quite a bit. And A Dull Roar, they always have an A at the beginning. A Dull Roar. I'll have to come up with the rest of the names.
Your manic dedication to work is very inspiring. Like, it makes me feel like I need to work more. Like, when you're writing all the time and doing all these things, like, you're one of those guys. It's like, it feels like you're always with your foot on the gas.
Yeah, I'm kind of furious for work.
Yeah.
But I don't, it's not what, it's what I do, but it's also what I don't do, in that I don't have a family, and I'm not putting it down. I just don't have that. I'm just not chipped that way. I never thought of having kids. I don't have a wife. I don't have friends, really. Most of the people I know either pay a salary or a commission to. My phone doesn't ring. My old best friend from since I was 12, Ian Mackay of the band Fugazi, he and I talk every Sunday if possible. But past that, my phone usually doesn't ring unless it's an interview. Or Heidi going, "Hey, you're late. Get over there."
Is that good?
It is what it is.
Does it work for you? Like,
It's all I know. I've been that way since I was 5.
But the no friends part?
Well, I'm not looking for enemies. I'm not looking for a fight.
Of course.
I just don't want to come over on the weekend for dinner.
No?
No. I
ever have a good time at dinner with somebody?
I'm just uncomfortable that I'll say the wrong thing, and I just act. I look at the table full of people and go, act like them.
You should be friends with comics, because you can't say the wrong thing because no one cares.
Yeah, but then then they'll call and say, "Hey, come out with us. We're going." Then you have to go.
You don't have to go. You just
no,
say, fuck that, I'm not going.
I'm a deadbeat. I'd be a deadbeat friend.
That's fine.
I'd never want to go with anyone to do anything.
You don't have to.
But well, look at all the phone calls I'm saving.
It sounds like you're managing expectations versus, like, it doesn't sound like you don't like friends. It's just you don't want expectations. It's going to get in the way.
So, well, also I'm just kind of moody in that, we're going to go out and do this thing. And then I don't want to see anyone or do anything until 2028. And I don't want to cancel. And so this is my big, besides hanging out with you, my big social thing is many, many years ago, 2003, I did a song with Bill Shatner, on his album, and we became pals. "Henry, come by the house for Monday Night Football." And he invited me to the house for Monday Night Football. He lives a few traffic lights from me. And I'm walking up the stairs to the living room where the big TV is, and I heard all this laughter and voices, and I froze. And I was right at the threshold of the door, and I said, "Turn back, turn back, turn back." I'm turning back. "Henry!" And he saw me. And I'm like, "Hey, Bill!" And I walked in and met all his really cool friends. And he, at least for me, Bill is one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And it's one of the oddest friendships I have, in that I've been going to Bill Shatner's house every year since 2003. So what's that? 15?
15 years.
Right. And I will be there this year. I'm on his next record.
He's doing another record?
Oh, yeah. I did the vocal last year.
Rocket Man.
This is, it'll be fun. I'm not going to, it's for him to announce it. But every great once in a while, his assistant will contact me. "Hey, Bill really wants to see you. How about like are you free for next Wednesday? Go meet him and the wife in the valley and go eat." I'm like, "Yeah." And it's great to see him and his amazing wife. And I truly value that friendship. I mean, I look forward to seeing him. I really enjoy hearing what he's up to because he was doing like 5 things. And it's become this thing where I really look forward to football season. I don't know much about football. I have no idea what a halfback does.
They run. I think they run.
I don't know. I never knew. But I like going there. And it's always the same group of people he's known for like 500 years, and they're super nice. And I've kind of sort of known them for like 15 years. And it's so odd because I have nothing else like that really in my life. I'm just a weirdo.
Just William Shatner.
Yeah, it's weird.
Sounds awesome.
The other thing I would do once a year, and sadly it ended, but for a few years, I would go to Gail Zappa's birthday party on January 1st because I would play a lot of her husband's music on my radio show, Frank Zappa. And one time someone in the family wrote me and said, "Hey, thanks for playing Dad on the show." I'm like, "Are you kidding? I love those records." And then Gail, the mom, the wife, wrote and said, "Hey, thank you. And, we know who you are here and we like you. I have a birthday party every January 1st. Why don't you come up to the house this year or next year?" And I did. And that was like 3 or 4 years in a row I did that until Gail passed away. And, in the more you get there, or whatever it is, like 2 p.m, 2 hours before, I'm genuinely nervous to go be in a room full of extraordinarily nice people with fantastically good food. And everyone was always so nice to me. And it's like a who's who. You walk in and you're like, wow. It's just all these people you recognize. I'm not here to name drop, but some of the tables I sat at that thing, I'm like, really? Am I really talking to, really? It's fantastic. And she was always so nice to me. And last time I was up there, one of my books is in the living room. I'm like, wow. And when she passed away, I wrote one of the family members. I said, "I am so sorry. Thank you for the hospitality. Your mom was so great to me." And I'm kind of like the rescue dog. I'm used to being outside. And so I don't come inside very often. And I went to that birthday party because just the friendliness of that, I wouldn't, as socially nerve-wracking as those things are for me, I had such respect for that extension of kindness. I cannot disrespect it by not going. I wouldn't dare. The samurai in me says, you do not you must be respectful,
right,
even if it makes you nauseous with social anxiety, because I just don't know what to do. I can't say no because it's such a nice thing to do for someone.
Yeah.
She must not really know how I am, otherwise she never would have invited me. So, but things like that, out of sheer politeness and respect for someone being friendly to me, I'm kind of a pushover just because I'm like, wow, that was so nice. I must salute that.
I think it's so good that you're open about your social anxiety and then about how you feel being around all these people. Because a lot of people on the outside, they see someone like you, Black Flag, all your spoken word things, your books, your fucking. I mean, I always go back to the Liar song. Mm-hmm. Your fucking neck was like the size of my waist, and you're screaming, and you're painted red. And you're this crazy, intimidating guy in a lot of ways. So to hear you talk about social anxiety and how weird you feel, and I think we all feel that. I always feel like that. I mean, it doesn't matter. I think no matter how famous you get, if you're paying attention, you're going to have an imposter syndrome. You're always going to feel like you don't belong there. If you're actually paying attention, and if you don't, you're probably delusional in some sort of a way.
I wonder about the people who don't.
Right.
I get to do cool stuff. And before I go into that, on your point, it's easy for me to be in front of people. That's a very different thing than being with people. I can be the party, but going to the party's difficult.
Interesting.
Put me in front of 5 people, 5,000 people, stage fright. No, I can't wait to be out there. You're a performer type.
Yeah.
You love that audience. So they showed up. Are you kidding? I'm a dog with a wagging tail. I want to get out there and get it going. I can't wait. I wait the whole day on tour to get out there. The whole day is about 8 o'clock, stage time. being amongst people, like going to like a gallery event, I go see a Shepherd Ferry thing or something, and people are super nice to me, and I'm always polite back, but I'm a little nervy. But if they said, "Can you get up and speak for 5 minutes?" Oh yeah, I got this.
That's so strange.
Well, it is strange, but it's also it's a way to avoid being with people, be in front of them. It's a way to be in the room with people, just be the center of attention. So maybe that's coming from some kind of neediness or some deprivation as what I didn't get as a kid. But you make a great point about that. When you really think, well, this is where I belong, I think you lose all the fun of it.
Yeah.
And you turn into kind of a jerk. So when every 500 years I go to one of those premieres, I get invited, and you're in a room full of tons of really good food, and none of those people eat. So I just like go in there and come out 9 pounds heavier, a bunch of shrimp. I just eat. But I was at a big Hollywood premiere, big movie years ago, and it's like that one, and they're all like, it is their lives. And I'm with a buddy of mine. We blagged in there and we're like, what are we doing here? This is so cool because we know we shouldn't be here. And after shaking Ike Turner's hand, 10 minutes later, I'm back in my own kitchen going, that was so weird. Like, what a surreal evening. And because my friend and I were standing next to each other, and he said, "That looks like Ike Turner." I go, "No, man, that is Ike Turner." He looked like a human barracuda. He's like terrifying. I said, "Let's go meet him." I'm like, "Come on!" Like, we bought a ticket. We're at the dance. Let's go talk to this guy. He's like, "No." And I just walked right over there. I said, "You invented rock and roll, Rocket '88," and he went, "Yes, I did," and shook my hand.
Wow.
And I said, "He first ever distorted guitar on tape," which is kind of true. And he went, "That's right." And I fluffed him up, and he was all happy to meet me. And I said, "Hey, and here's my friend." And I brought my friend over, and we shook his hand and kind of stood with him for a minute and went, okay, so it's probably not going to get any better for us. So let's get out of here. And so we ate a few more handfuls of mini burritos, and we bailed. But it was one of those nights where, like, we weren't supposed to be in there. And if I ever lose that, then just never talk to me again, because my head would have disappeared up part of me.
Well, that anxiety and that insecurity is a big part of the fuel that keeps everything moving.
Super fuel
and
for me.
And keeps you analyzing yourself.
Yeah, and anger.
Yeah.
I'm mad at I like fighting, and I'm not fighting like in a ring. For me, a lot of things are confrontation. Like, tour is what you think I can't do 47 shows in 48 days? No, actually, my next tour is 47 and 47. I have a day off, but I have 2 shows a few days later in one day. So, well, you think I can't? Well, then book 20 more. Like, book 200 more in the winter, and just give me a llama and a knife, and I'll make every gig. Like, watch this. And that's so much of what fuels me. Like, I'm going to write and like, I come up with these huge ideas for books. Like, that's going to take me 5 years to write it. And it did. And I just finished it. It's going to the proofreader soon. This epic project. I just finished. It's a series of music books. It's 407,000 words.
What?
Yeah. It's a bit much. But so am I. And it was this idea.
How many pages is that?
I don't know. It's a lot. Thankfully, it's mostly on a hard drive, so we don't have to like deforest some park. But it was an idea I had. I said, okay, this is going to take a lot of years to execute this idea. And so, like, watch me work 7 days a week on this thing. Watch me stay up until the next day working on this thing. And a lot of what fuels me, that's what gets me into auditions. Like, I think, like, hey, go audition for this TV show. I'm not an actor. So am I going? Yeah, I'm going. And I sit in that hallway like 20 years older than all these other people. And they got the good gym bodies on, they got fantastic hair, chiseled bodies, and they all know each other. I'm like this weird old man going for the same part. The only guy not dipped in cologne. I'm like, oh, man. And I go in there and I bomb, of course. I get my parking pass validated and listen to Slayer on the way home to take the lump out of my throat.
How often do you do that? How often are you auditioning for things?
Depends if I'm in town and there's interesting things happening. More and more, as I don't know what's happening, but I take more meetings and just get more offers. Like, hey, we like you for this, yes or no? Cool, yes. But there's auditions I do for voiceover, for like animated or like car ads or what have you, and acting. I audition for all kinds of things, and every great once in a while, the audition will get work. But mainly, I just get offers. We like you for this. It starts in October. I'm in. And that happens fairly often now. But I get in those lines at any major studio you want to imagine, or I go in for the meeting with a casting person. They kind of look you over. But I do those raw auditions where you leave and you see like 5 headshots on a desk. It is what it is. And you get you're out of there in about 35 seconds. You walk in. You're Henry, R-O-L-L-I. Are you ready? Sure. You have any questions? No. Stand on this piece of tape. She'll be reading with you. And you thank you very much for coming in. And you leave the trailer. And you get back on the 101 and go home. And you never hear from them again.
Often.
For me?
Most of the time.
Out of 100 of those, 98%. Times.
I think that's for everybody.
I'm not putting it down. I'm just saying, you asked about auditions.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I go in there.
I think that's one of the things that makes actors so fucking weird, is not just that they need attention in the first place.
They get told no a lot.
They get told no a lot.
Rejection, it sucks.
It sucks, and they're already insecure in the first place, and then they sort of try to model their behavior based on what they think the casting agents and the producers want to hear.
Yep.
And they change, and they develop this style of communicating that's very actory.
It's a weird way to make your living.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never relied on acting as my source of income. In 1984, when I was 23, I had a thing that has been serving me up to sitting here with you now. I was very young and 23 years of age, a young idiot, and I looked all around me, and all my peers were super talented. Who are my peers? Minor Threat, Bad Brains, Husker Du, the Meat Puppets, the Dead Kennedys. I'm just surrounded by really talented people who are brilliant, great songwriters, and between tours, many of them are waiting tables, living with mom, living on couches, sleeping at band practice, with a kick drum, a pillow as their pillow, just like, roughing it. And I reckon that I'm less talented than all of them. And if they're waiters between tours, the only reason I'm not is Black Flag never stops touring. Like the ball never hit the ground because we'd starve. And so I better get plans B, C, D, E, F, and G ready because music's not going to sustain me. Ironically, it went very well for me. And so I was doing the writing. So I said, I'm going to really get better at writing. I'm going to really bear down on this. The talking shows, I'm getting 35 people a night. I'm going to get 50 people a night. And then voiceover people started coming like, hey, can you do a voiceover? I got a voice. What do you want me to I better learn to say yes to stuff. And by the mid-'80s, hey, you want to be in a movie? Yeah. I mean, like, what do I have to lose except, calories from starving? And so it was fear of not eating that, and knowing I better have a plan. And so I started developing that in the 80s and 90s. And from that came, when I'm done with this, I'm going to go immediately into this documentary, and then I'm finishing this radio show, and then I'm going off to do this film, and then I'm going on tour, and then I'm coming back and finishing this book. And it turned into this juggling all these things. So I never had to be a full-time actor, like that's how I pay the rent. That would be terrifying, right up there with being a professional comedian. Like, I don't know how someone acts for a living without being really good or out of their minds with anxiety.
But being a professional comedian, at least you write your own stuff, so you're kind of in control of that.
But
and then you don't have to pay.
You're in.
It doesn't seem that rough. And then you don't have to pay people. Like, you don't have to pay roadies. You don't have a drummer that has to show up. Also, you don't have the bass player who you got to get along with. Like, there's so many variables with a band that comedians don't have. Like, we always look at you guys and go, wow, I don't know how the fuck you guys do it. Because there's not as much, like, you might do the same size venues that we do, but you're splitting the money with all these fucking people.
Yep.
And then a lot of times today, the record company gets a piece. They get a piece of everything, right? They get a piece of your merchandise.
Yeah, you see bands play really big places, and it's amazing how much money they don't make.
Yeah.
Or each guy in the band gets, you're like, really?
Yeah.
Huh. And then you see, someone, like a small comedian playing like a 150-seater for 2 nights, 2 sets a night, the Laugh whatever in the Midwest. And you're like, wow, that's a pretty good weekend. Like, because he's just taking it home in his suitcase.
Yeah, you can get by.
You
Easy.
can get by.
Yeah, and you can work. You could work everywhere. You know, for a band, I think it's more the venues are more limited. Places you go are more limited. You know, and I think that's interesting that it was almost like a desperation to not have to work a job as a waiter that kept you just hustling and figuring out other ways.
I just knew that the straight world, because I'd been in it. I come from it, you know, minimum wage work and everything. And I knew I couldn't survive in it because you get, as a young adult, you start to figure out who you are. And I go, okay, I'm not an artist, but I'm an artist type. I'm nuts. You can't put me in a straight job. I can pass for normal just because I can task it. I can totally do it. Like you can put me in a Ralph's, a Kroger's, a Starbucks. I will totally get in there and hit the work and clean it all and serve it up with a smile. But I'll be going crazy inside. Yeah. I will be punching the wall.
Everybody in those places is going crazy inside.
I don't know. But I can't sustain in that. And I haven't had to for many years. I've been lucky. I've been in the world of lunatics since 1981.
Yeah.
Being a crazy person out with other crazy people. And when I look at a straight job, I'm like, man, I don't think at this point I could hack it. Not because I'm spoiled, just because I've never had to tether my adult mind to that. I work 7 days a week, but on Henry stuff. It's me. It's not.
It's a different thing.
It's a different thing.
Yeah, you enjoy that work.
Yeah, and it's way over 60 hours a week. I mean, I do 2 shifts usually, 2 8 to 10 hour shifts, depending on the workload. Well, I can't do 4 hours of sleep a night, but
How much you sleep?
I time my sleep. I hit the stopwatch on the phone before I go to bed, just to clock sleep patterns. I did about 6 point something hours of sleep last night.
That's good.
It's good. I feel great today. I barely ate, and I got in a good workout, and all last night I did a lot of pull-ups. I played 15 7-inch records, and between flipping them over, I got a beam in my living room. It's a beam coming out of the ceiling that supports me, and I just run over there and just do a bunch of pull-ups and then go change the record. So you want more music, you have to pay in pain.
And you're doing all this by yourself, all alone.
Yeah, but by bedtime, you are hurting and ready to sleep. So I got good sleep last night.
So you mix the workout in with your enjoyment of music. You just space it in between the songs.
Yeah, last night was pulling. Tonight at the turntable, I'll be listening to more records. I'll just do sets of push-ups next to the turntable.
That's actually a smart move because that's probably a good interval of rest. Like get a good hard workout in and then you listen to a 4-minute song.
Yeah, and then I do it all night. And it's just, I'm not doing 50 sets, 50 rep sets. I'm doing like 15 to 25, but I'm doing them for quite a while. By the time I go to bed, it's Advil time. I'm like, ow, I'm too old for this. But I work on something every day on tour. I don't take vacations. I'm not trying to brag. I just can't handle not doing it, whatever the thing is. Yeah.
Well, you found an interesting way to live life. I don't know anybody like you, but it's working for you.
Yeah. It works on all levels. And I can sustain, I pay my bills, I'm not bored, and I get, for the most part, to call my own shots.
And you seem happy.
Happy when I'm working.
Yeah.
Yeah, happy.
Happy with the tasks.
Yeah, I value work. I'm an achievement junkie. Like, if I'm depressed, I just pick something to do, like finish a radio show, edit this thing, transcribe this chapter from a notebook. And after I'm done, I'm like, okay, that's the antidepressant, was actually doing something, which is not the worst. It's not booze. It's not a pill. It's the treadmill.
Yeah.
Or it's that damn thing, I got to get it written. Well, shut up and write it. Yeah. When I'm done, it's like an endorphin thing where I'm great for another day.
There was an article written about happiness, and that was one of the things that they said, that one of the things that seems to sustain people's happiness or facilitate happiness is accomplishing tasks. Like setting goals for yourself, accomplishing those goals, and getting this sense of completion, that you've actually done the work and you did it and you disciplined yourself and got through it, and that this is one of the major keys to happiness for a lot of people.
Works for me. Totally works for me.
Me as well.
I've tried everything but drugs, because I've been battling with depression since I was a little kid. And I just knew it. I'm like, what is this? It's just awful. And later I found out it was depression. And I don't want to do drugs. I just don't want it. My brain plus drugs. It's like someone else's idea. It terrifies me. So I had to figure out, what do you do? And so that's where the gym, working out really is a big help. Writing. But listening to music, that is like kind of my drug. You know, I just put the records on and like 3 songs in, you're like, oh, there's that feeling. Buoyancy neutral. It's like floating in the tank, or when you're scuba diving, you get your air just right and you're floating. That's how I feel when I have the music on. I'm like, this is as good as it gets. And that's why I always have, I'm always looking at new records, going to the record store. There's more happiness coming in.
Does the exercise work better or the same as work, like for managing depression?
The workout is maintenance. It doesn't achieve much, but I achieve the workout.
But do you feel like the endorphin release, does that help you?
Yes. Yeah, it does. And I, as the Buddhists say, I made merit. I went in there and did my time on the treadmill. I don't want to be there. It's like the last 15 minutes, I'd rather be somewhere else. Like, it's cool. You'll be fine. Sit down, do your work.
That's why before the podcast, I was suggesting hot yoga to you. And you seem to be very stiff lately. You've got some injuries and some things that are
it's all
bothering
coming back.
you.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, that'll fix a lot of that shit. It'll really
I know you
change.
have a great workout diversity. When you and I were talking before, we were at your place and you said some mornings you feel like training this way and you'll go to that gym, or you'll train like with judo or whatever, and then the next day it's going to be kettlebells. So you really like to mix it up. I think it's good for a body to always be guessing what's coming next.
Yeah, I think that's important. There's some things that I really have to do. I think I need at least 1 day of hard cardio a week, and I think I need at least 1 day of hard lifting weights a week, but I also think I need at least 1 day of yoga a week, at least. Yoga is, to me, it's one of the most important things that I do, because for that 90 minutes, I can't go anywhere. I don't touch my phone's not in the room with me. It's just me and a jug of water and the yoga mat and the class and a bunch of old ladies that are kicking my ass. These old ladies are fucking tough, man. There's this old lady. She goes to this workout class with me. I see her there all the time. She's got to be close to 70. She doesn't even bring water. She just toughs it out. She's there for 90 minutes sweating and grunting through the postures. And you're doing an hour and a half class, those last 20 minutes in 104 degrees. It's so hard to get through. But when you get through, you just feel like you feel better. While I'm in it, I can't wait to do it again. Like while I'm struggling, and I was like, God, I need to do more than this. I need to do this more often, rather. I can't wait to do this again. Like I always feel that. And it just lengthens everything. Like all the back things and the leg things, the hamstring things, just stretches everything out, lengthens it, and all the tension, it just straightens it out and loosens it up. And I just feel like for a guy like you or I who does a lot of like, especially like used to do a lot of heavy lifting, you were saying, a lot of deadlifts and squats, this is the antidote for all that stuff.
Right.
It's decompression and for your body maintenance. It's just phenomenal.
Probably lets loose the lactic acid out of your muscle tissue.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, here's what I've observed. I live in Los Angeles, so there's a lot of yoga people.
Yeah.
But, I know them because they have a mat. Mm-hmm. But you can also see how they walk, how they sit. They're so in their body. Yeah. And there is a grace to, I'm not trying to put anyone in the pejorative, but a yoga person where there's not only are they limber, they're just really okay. Their body articulation, you're like, okay, I don't have that. I'm a herky-jerky, uncoordinated person, but there's a hum coming from that person's overall body. It's a beautiful machine, the way they articulate themselves and the way they sit. I'm like,
it's a very unusual balance, the balance of like the core
But you can tell someone
strengthening
who does it, they have that.
Yeah.
And it's not subtle. I recognize it.
You would
in
love
people.
it, man. You know what? You would love it because it fucking sucks. And while you're doing it, man, you have the internal dialogue's crazy.
Yeah, you want to bolt.
Well, you want to bolt, but you also start going over your life and your mind and dealing with all your bullshit and your to-do list and all the things you're doing wrong or slacking. There's something about really struggling in these static positions for like a minute where you're trying to like hold your leg up in the air and your sweat is literally pouring off your arms and your head, and there's something about that, man, that it's just really cleansing. It just really empties you. I just think it's a thing that you're missing that you would really love if you tried. I bet if you did it and then you came back and we did a podcast a year later, be like, fuck yoga. I fucking love it. It's changed my life. It's changed my life.
Yeah, I know a lot of fighters, a lot of people who like are hectic for a living.
Yep.
They're yoga people.
Yep.
And like in the 70s, you say yoga, someone's going to punch you.
Yeah.
Like yoga, wham.
Well, you know why I found out about it? Do you know who Hicks and Gracie is?
Well, are we talking about the Gracie, the
Yes.
family?
Well, the family, Hoist Gracie is the most famous because he's probably the most important figure ever in the history of martial arts, because he won the first Ultimate Fighting Championship and showed that a small man can actually beat larger men with technique and skill. Well, his brother is Rickson, and his brother is like universally regarded as one of the greatest jiu-jitsu guys, if not the greatest of all time. And he was different than everybody else in that he did yoga. Like his thing was, I'd never heard of a martial artist that got into yoga, but Rickson would do these breathing exercises and he'd do these balance beam exercises, and he was always doing yoga and stretching, and that was a giant part of his workout. And he was above and beyond everyone else in his time period. Like in the 90s, everyone was scared of Rickson. He was the man. I mean, but it wasn't like there was any debate. It's very rare that you get something that is so antagonistic and so tightly contested as two men using martial arts techniques trying to strangle each other, and one guy stands above all by such a large margin, and that was Rickson. And I really do believe that part of it was his mind, part of it was his physicality, but a lot of that physicality was enhanced by his dedication to yoga.
Huh.
Yeah, he's a legit yogi. Like he does that fire breathing shit where he sucks his stomach in that weird way and has it move up and down.
Wow.
You ever see someone
Yeah.
do that? Yeah. He does that like a real yogi. Like it's a real trip. And I think because of his like physical, like you can see it there. He's got this video here. You can see him do this fire breathing shit. Like watch what he does with his stomach. It's kind of fucking crazy. He sucks his stomach way, way, way up deep into his rib cage. He does this breath of fire thing, and then as it gets going, he starts pumping his like here. See it if you pull it up there, Jamie. The part where he starts to do it. Look at this.
Wow.
Yeah, like what the fuck,
Whoa.
man? Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
It's crazy. And that's
Yeah.
just one of the things.
He has abdominal muscle control.
Yeah,
who gets that? That's a muscle group
ridiculous.
you never try and articulate, make it do anything.
Yeah. Well, he practiced yoga for a long, long, long time. And because of that, he had this phenomenal core strength and phenomenal balance. And he just had a giant advantage over everyone else. And I think a lot of that advantage was his ability to move his body was different. But it's also just, for a guy like you that's been just lifting weights for so long, it's the perfect antidote for your body. It's like your body will react to like, oh yeah, stretch this out. Thank you. We've been asking for this.
Yeah.
You know, lengthen this, hold that pose. This is, instead of just lifting something, you know, which is like what men like to do. Instead of that, you're holding your arms out there like that. You're like, fuck, I don't even have any weight in these things and I want to drop them.
Yeah, I've done every once in a while I've worked out with someone else, and they go, okay, we're going to do this and this, and then you work out with, and then you let yourself be trained.
Yeah.
And I've done a few workouts. They go, okay, I'm going to kill you. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Like, by the end of this, you won't be able to take your shirt off to change. And I've done, where you're benching this much, then this much, then this much. You end up doing like 150 reps, and by the time you can't lift the bar. And you can't lift your arms. You're literally trembling from exhaustion. And I've told that to people. They go, that's yoga. You will tremble from exhaustion.
Yeah.
And you'll be so happy when you leave because of how good you feel, and you can't wait to go back.
And you won't blow your joints out the way you will with weightlifting.
I already have.
Yeah, there's no way around it.
I've paid. Yeah, I did a thing the other day on advice of Heidi, the manager, and Joey Diaz. I tried that
Cryotherapy.
Yes, and I am not. I'm a naysayer in lowercase. I understand why it would work, and I'm not saying it's quackery, but I just feel like I'm in an Annie Hall scene when I walk into these places, like. Because it's like super, hey, we're the whatever therapy, and I'm Moonlight, and this is, and then like you shake the guy's hand and he damn near breaks your arm. These people are in incredible shape. And so I said, okay, I got in the robe and I went into that room for 2 minutes and 45 seconds, and the endorphin rush, it's like a UPS truck of endorphins.
Yeah.
You come out of there like, can I go back in? Like,
I know.
and since I got out of it, all I have been thinking about is going back in. In the parking lot, I just wanted to turn around and get another shot.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
asked the guy at the counter, I go like, what is that? He goes, it's endorphins.
Yeah.
It just unleashes them like fight or flight. You just
Yeah.
get this rush. I said, I want to go back. He said, come and see us again sometime. But it was incredible. And it's not long. Like you're out of there before you know it.
10 minutes, you're in and out.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
wow. It
I'm a
knocked
big
me
fan.
out. And I know that a lot of athletes, and I know that you use it, Joey Diaz, but all the on the brochure,
Mm-hmm.
apparently all these sports teams, like it's just part of what you do.
Well, one thing it has been proven to do, there's a lot of naysayers when it comes to this, even scientists apparently, that don't exercise. But people that do exercise and do try it all pretty much universally regard it as being beneficial. But one of the things that's been shown in clinical studies is that it reduces and it produces more anti-inflammatory bodies in the blood.
That's what I was told.
Yeah, so it does reduce inflammation in your body. And it just, but I think just for the mood elevation, it's worth doing. I mean, it does that norepinephrine release that you get when you get out of there. It's unbelievable. You get that.
Yeah, it wasn't subtle.
No,
it wasn't
it's
like, it was like,
amazing.
wow.
And the sun feels great on your face when you get outside. You're like, ah.
Everything felt great. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't do much on as far as stimulants, like coffee and aspirin, I guess. So I'm not even sure what the effect is, if anything. And so it doesn't take much to make me go, well, that's different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that I walked out back to the parking lot like, damn.
Yeah.
That was
I
fantastic.
do 3 and then I take 10 minutes off and then I do 3 again. So I do 2 sessions.
Wow.
Yeah, I do 2 back to back.
So
Yeah.
you go in, you do
My
like
body
what,
warms
2 or 3
back up.
minutes?
I do 3 minutes, and then my body warms back up to like once your skin temperature gets around 84 degrees, I'll let you get back in there, and then I go back in there again for another 3 minutes.
So wait, how many like you'll go into this place?
3 minutes, and then I wait for 10 minutes, and then I go in for another 3 minutes.
So you do
2 sessions.
in 2 sessions in one visit.
Yes. Yeah.
And how many times? How often? How many times a month?
Whenever I can, but I've been mixing it up more with sauna. I've been doing a lot of sauna lately. I kind of like that as much, if not more.
The sauna?
Yeah, sauna seems to be really good for muscle injuries. There's something about the sauna for any time to like muscle tissue or soreness or weird shit. Sauna just blows that all out. And sauna is also one of those things that it's what it is your body reacting to extremes, right? Whether it's extreme cold or extreme heat, your body produces heat shock proteins and cold shock proteins, and all those things are doing is reducing inflammation. That's the number one thing. Like you want to feel better, reduce inflammation, and this is one of the best ways to manipulate your body is either through cryotherapy or through sauna. Both of those things are amazing.
Yeah, someone I know that she says it's all about inflammation. You got to beat the inflammation.
Yeah, cut out all the sugar, cut out all the carbs, cut out all the bread, cut out all the alcohol. If you can do that, you'll massively reduce inflammation.
Yeah, that's her gospel. Is all that? That's
Yeah.
nothing good in there for you.
Yeah, man. And once your body gets used to it, too, that's what's really interesting. You don't even really crave it anymore. Like, I still like ice cream. I still enjoy, like, a dessert or something like that. But it doesn't have the same impact. I used to, like, I see a sandwich, and I go, oh, look at that sandwich. Look at that pastrami sandwich, big, thick bread.
Yeah.
And that doesn't do it for me anymore. I recognize what that is. Like, oh, that's a trick. That's a trick. That's not
Yeah.
even really food.
Yeah, I don't eat as much as I used to. I just feel so much better when I just skip the middle meal. And like, whose idea was it 3 meals a day anyway?
You don't need that.
Right.
No.
And I found that I can live very comfortably. I'm not into like torturing myself. It's like, oh, I'm going to starve and nail myself to this chair. But, you know, if I'm too distracted to work because I'm hungry, I need to address that. But what I have found is if I just kind of don't eat a lot after a couple of days, I'm like a jet in the high air where you're burning no fuel because you're just in the thin air, where I walk by food going like, nah, I've had like 2 meals in the last 2.5 meals like in the last 3 days. And I feel fine. Actually, I feel like really bouncy. Like
Yeah.
I don't need the post-workout 7-minute power nap. I'm feeling really good.
Do you do intermittent fasting at all?
Yes, on the woman I work with, you know, Heidi, she does that sometimes, and I'll just follow her lead. So she'll go, hey, I'm doing this. I'll try that because I just don't know this stuff. And she knows a lot more about it than I do. So I just do what she does. And so a few years ago, I got into like one meal a day. I was just trying it out. No one told me to. I was in India, of all places, and I was out all day taking photos and sweating, and I would eat dinner, and that would be it. And I would like sleep through breakfast and go back out and with my camera. So dinner became my meal. And the first 3 days of that was a little tough. And then it was like I kind of felt bad when I went back to the Western.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm eating a lot of food.
Your body adapts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we can adapt. You can live on pizza for the rest of your life very happily. Whatever.
But your body really does adapt to that intermittent, that timed
Well, no, I'm saying it'll
feeding.
adapt to
Yeah.
anything. It'll adapt to too much food, or it'll adapt to like a fraction of what you used to eat.
Right.
Here's what I have found. When I start limiting the food, I'm more alert, my sleep is more restorative, and I bounce out of bed. Like, I'm just flying out of bed. I don't have that afternoon drowsiness. I just stay with it, and I just feel way more buoyant and present.
Yeah.
Type faster, just concentrate more. And when I'm on tour, it's usually I do 1 point something meals a day. Like I'm about to leave on tour, it's an evening meal post show.
I put myself into an 8-hour feeding window and 16-hour fasting window every day. And I've been pretty consistent with that over the last like 4 or 5 months. And it has a big impact, man. When when I eat dinner, say if I'm done at 8 o'clock, I just time it out. 16 hours later is when my first meal comes. I can have a coffee in between now and then, but nothing with like any real significant calories. I'm just having some liquid or something like that, and that's it. And then it just, by doing that, man, I wake up in the morning, I'm not craving breakfast. I'm not even hungry. My body's just totally adapted to it. Yeah, it just gives your body a chance to digest. I think we're always in a state of feeding, and your body just never has really a chance to digest all that food.
It's like juggling. The body's like, as it's processing, it's incoming, like, really? Yeah. Another order?
Exactly.
Where it never gets to realize digestion. Like, we're done. It's always, you're like a cow.
Yep.
They're always processing nutrition.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's a Western model.
Yeah.
Because in other parts of the world, people live very differently than we do. It is what it is. And a meal it's almost just a thing that happens now and then. It's not like it's dinner time and we're going to talk about report cards, and it's not a gathering. It's like the whole family works all over the city, and they're going to eat, I think, at some point. Where even sleep, you go to like parts like Vietnam, and people are just like sleeping behind the counter of the store they work at because they've been there for a day and a half.
Right.
Because mom can't come in, so they're running the store, and sleep is this thing that you get now and then. And I think food is like that in a lot of parts of the world. Like a meal, the next time I eat will be the next time I eat.
When you go to these places, and I know you travel pretty much all over the world, do you go out of your way to try to sample in as wide a variety as the local cuisine as you can?
No. Depends on where I go. And I'm not that guy who just brings it all from home and I never leave home when I'm abroad. But I can't afford to eat a bad meal and be bedridden for the next day when I should be out hitting the streets looking at stuff. And so I've had, as you do, you run into the bad meal where you're like hugging a tree, watching the arc of vomit, like, wow, Linda Blair. And I've done that from here to Myanmar and Russia, wherever I've had some bad meals. And so when the food looks dodgy, like in the interior of Africa, when you point at the meat object and go, what is that? And the guy will say, I think it's goat. Cliff Bar, just because I just can't. And so what I've learned to do, and it's hard on your back because it's a lot of weight, say I'm going to be out in Africa for 2 weeks. I bring about 2 meals worth of chow with me. That's a lot of nuts, a lot of Cliff Bars, a lot of like peanut butter, things that just don't go bad in heat. Where I can just look at the food and go, no, not tonight. It's going to be a handful of almonds and this and water. Also, in parts of the world where water's dodgy, you find a store, you buy the box of water, rip it open to make sure it hasn't been tampered with, buy the whole box, put it in your backpack, and lug 40 pounds of water for the next 5 days. It sucks, but you you can't be somewhere and go like, I'm thirsty and I don't know about that water, because
Have
that
you
could
thought
go
about
south on you.
bringing, they have these portable backpack filters and SteriPens and things that a lot of backpack hikers, they use. They're very small now. They're very small and lightweight. And you can get some, like if you're staying in a place and you think it has dodgy water, you can get a gravity filter where you put water. Like you could literally get rainwater from outside in a puddle. And I know a lot of people do that. And they take it and they put it in this large gravity filter and it'll drip down almost like, it looks like someone's peeing at the bottom of this huge bag, like a 60-liter bag of water. But it filters it all and it allows you to drink basically puddle water.
Right. No, I've never gotten that high tech. I've been in some pretty dodgy places, but I've always been somewhere in prep, like a city before I go into the countryside, where I go, okay, it's going to be 5 days before I see anything like this again. So I'm provisioning for 8 days.
That's
of
a good
water.
thing, but Google SteriPen. You should get one of these things because this thing is so simple. It's like, it basically looks like a pen and it works with ultraviolet light, and you put it in water. Like say if you have a glass of water, you just stir this into water. It kills everything in the water. Everything.
Wow.
Yeah, it'll still, like if there's there it is right there. So if there's buffalo piss in that water, it's still going to smell like buffalo piss.
Yeah, but it won't
it's
kill
not
you.
going to kill you, and it won't give you giardia, and it won't give you anything else.
Wow, that's smart.
Yeah, and it's not big. It's a small little device. You see it there.
No, it's handheld.
Yeah.
I get it.
Those are drops.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, I think
just
that's
put
a
it in your
different
backpack.
thing. Yeah,
yeah, because there's parts of like mainly Africa where you go really in. The water, like that's a lot of mosquitoes.
Sketchy.
Oh,
Yeah,
and you see the
sketchy.
locals drinking,
Ugh.
like clearing the larvae out of the way. I'm like, don't do that.
gosh,
Like, what do you mean?
Christ.
That's our water.
my good friend Justin Wren, he runs a charity called Fight for the Forgotten, where they build wells for the pygmies in the Congo, and he's had malaria 3 times from going over there. Yeah, and he's a beautiful human being. Like this guy sacrifices so much. He's in the Congo several months out of every year.
It's tough. I
building
mean, it's
wells.
very dangerous.
It is very dangerous, and you know he's got some crazy stories about it too. But
I bet
you know these people, they like you see little children with horrible distended bellies because they're filled with parasites, and it's heartbreaking. A lot of it is clean water, and so they're developing. They're initially partnered up with Water 4. Now he's kind of doing it all on his own. But through this, one of my sponsors is called the Cash App, and through the Cash App, we've already raised thousands of dollars to build several wells in the Congo. And we're constantly like raising more money and building more wells. And, you know, it changes their life. They have free, actual, clear water that comes out of the ground. You see these people celebrating and dancing when the wells get turned on. You're like, this is so powerful. You just think of water as like, oh, hey, here's some water. I got a bottle. But to them, it's everything.
Yeah, I've been working on and off with a water NGO for many years called Drop in the Bucket. And I've been to Uganda and South Sudan with them. They drill at schools. And you know, as a Westerner, water's just that thing we sing in the shower with. You know, it's just like it's always around. You know, you trip over the bottles. There's so much water.
Right.
In other parts of the world, as you know, not so much. And when you see the impact of water on a school, there's so many things you don't think about. And so I was at this one school where they had drilled, Drop in the Bucket had drilled like before, and we were there to visit the well and meet the kids in Masaka. It's, I think, north of Kampala. And what one of the Drop in the Bucket people said is like, they now have toilets and running water. Do you understand what that means for female literacy? I'm like, what do you mean? A girl hits a certain age, she goes through a major physiological change. If there's not running water and a way for her to clean herself up, there's a lot of potential shame and self-consciousness. You stop going to school because there's not a way to keep yourself together. Wow. And your learning stops at young adulthood. But with running water and a way to, you know, as we Westerners just do so, you know, easily, you keep yourself hygienic and you can go back to class and learn to read. And I was like, I never would have thought of that had I not come on this trip. And it hit me like a truck. Because you just think, water, I'm thirsty. Water means so much more. Just dignity. Like, I want to be clean. You and me, we throw our clothes in the laundry every day. Yeah. Clean clothes. I mean, you see these women walking 8 miles each way with the jerry cans of water. Some of that's for drinking. A lot of it's for cleaning clothes because they're sending their kid to a school and they want the kid, you know, human dignity. Water and all of that is a big, you know, you can't have dignity without the water because water means I don't stink
Right.
And you must respect me as a person because I don't smell like I've been living in these clothes for a week. And I learned a lot of that by traveling, but traveling with that NGO was like going to class. It was huge.
Yeah, man, that's something I never would have considered.
Yeah, and human dignity, it's why we have a lot of angry people in the world, because you and I, as Westerners, we don't suffer. There's a lot of indignities that we don't suffer that a lot of people in the world work hard to not suffer. Like they have to go okay, have to go get the water today. That's a long trip. Got to walk to Long Beach and back to get the water because there's no tap. And I got kids and, infants. And I got to make this work because I can't have my family stinking. And I got to do the cooking.
And hopefully you don't get eaten by a crocodile when you go to
or
get the
attacked
water.
by a monkey. The monkeys, they smell the water and they mug you for the water.
Really?
Yeah. They just assault you, bite and they grab the water, knock it over and just lick it off the ground. Yeah, people get assaulted in dry season by monkeys.
Whoa.
Yeah. So these
little creeps.
But just you see what people do. They're not trying to be rock stars. All they want to do is what you and I do, just without even thinking twice. And that, it's made me, as an older guy, I'm pushing 60, it's made me really reconsider human relationships, like our current political climate, the way people talk to each other now. It's sometimes kind of terrifying. And it makes me really reconsider human dignity, respect, patience. Like there's a lot of people I disagree with, but they're coming from something real. Like something very real and honest propelled them to make that sign or to do that thing. And the cause and effect, I think they're maybe wrong-headed, but the cause is real and the effect is the action is sincerely held, the motivation. And it's that kind of travel and looking at how people, they don't want much. They just want to get by and large. And it's made me reconsider kind of how I voulez-vous with everyone out in the world. I think I'm getting better at it because it's so hard.
It is hard, but I think if you pay attention to it and you keep concentrating on it as you get older, you do get better at it. And the idea that someone who's almost 60 is still learning, like, that is just how we are, and we have this weird idea that people are static and they you meet a guy and he's 70. When you meet him when he's 75, he's going to be the same guy, if not worse. Right. But no, people, they're capable of growth as long as they're alive.
Yeah. And motivated. I mean, you'll grow as much as you want to.
Yes.
And I've met 70-year-olds who wear me out. I'm like, I can't keep up with this guy. Like I go on some cool eco travel trips. You go like Antarctica and these old like, come on. You're like, I can't. You go to take a photo and show it to me. And then you meet people who are 22 and they're so burned out.
Yeah.
And they're so hard to be around. Like, man, if I had your youth, I'd be like bouncing off the planet. What are you doing? And it's just a mindset and all kinds of surrounding factors and forces. But it's really just what you want to do at a certain part of your life. I have very little sympathy for adults in that you're 35. This is all you, pal. Your addictions, your crap marriage, that's all you.
Yeah.
Like I don't have that much. Well, I did so much coke, I don't have a house anymore. That's a lot of coke. And I'm sorry that you're living in a box or in a van down by the river. But come on, man, that's a long hill you slid down.
Yeah.
So get up and don't do it. Don't make the same mistake. But adults, come on, man, you know who you are at this point. And you know what you can be. And at this point, I abhor rudeness. I hate it. And I hate it when I'm rude. I'm like, damn, I have to punish myself.
Yeah.
And so I, as I get older, I'm working as best as I can to be more clear, to be more polite and more patient, just so I'm more unavoidable. Like on stage, I don't curse. So
Really?
There's no way you can marginalize me.
Even you're doing your live speaking shows where you're having these discussions and you're talking about crazy things that you've seen, you don't swear.
How many times have I sworn in this room with you right now on that today?
I don't think you have.
I haven't. I keep track.
Why is that?
Many years ago, almost 10 years ago, I was going out with a woman who never cursed. And I work with people who don't curse, and they get their point across. And this girl I was going out with, she's fantastic, and she never cursed. And my sailor speak, I was like, wow, I don't have any company here. And also Barack Obama and presidents, traditionally don't curse. But he's had such a good way with words. I just admired him on the stump. I'm sure it was all written for him. But nonetheless, I just like how the man carried himself. And I said, I want to be more like that. And I was just in Australia a couple of weeks ago. I was speaking, and I was on a very interesting panel about Me Too. I was the only male on the panel. It was fascinating. And a guy came up with his kids, like, hey, I'm a big fan, and I want my kids to meet you, and my son's 11, and I want him to come see one of your shows one day. And I said, oh, I think he should see me on my next tour here in 2020, when he'll be like, what, 13? No problem. And I'm not saying my show is namby-pamby, but I want to be unavoidable, where you can't write me off, say I'm wrong, fine, disagree with me, that's fine. Like, oh, he's just a foul mouth, so we don't have to take him seriously. I don't want to give you that handle to jerk me around by. I have plenty of other handles you can jerk me around by.
Yeah.
And so I'm just trying to not give people that angle. And it forces me to evolve my point of view, where those words are fun and hyperbolic, but they just don't
necessary.
They don't serve me.
Right.
They don't get across what I want to get across.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I would think that you're probably best, but you should do it any way you want. But what I'm thinking is that one way to use those words is to have your point as clear as possible and then use them rarely. Like one of the things when I was starting doing comedy back in Boston, they would call it the fuck meter. They would say, you don't want to go on stage and say fuck every other word, because a lot of people use the word fuck in place of the word They're like, fucking guy, this fucking says to me, fucking, I don't want to fucking tell you what to fucking do. This is just poor communication. This is a shitty economy of words.
Yep.
So that word, you've used it so many times, you've given away all its meaning. It doesn't mean anything anymore. So when you do, and I'm like, fuck you, it doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yeah, but if you say it like once a year, it does.
Right. If you say fuck you once a year, it means a lot.
Everyone will believe it.
Yes.
Like, oh, he's serious.
Yeah.
But if you just drop it all the time, and I believe in the First Amendment, but to me, when you use that stuff, you come in as one thing, but everyone, you kind of, the result is you're something else to a lot of people.
In front of some people's eyes, yeah. I mean, you certainly limit your digestibility. Yeah,
and impact. I'd rather be articulate than overbearing.
Mm-hmm.
And I watch the news, and some of these pundits are very, very educated, and they're very, very sharp. They're pundits for a living. They make commentary for a living, and they're damn good at it. And you're like, wow, that's a hell of a sentence. I'd like to be able to rock something like that one day. And that's kind of what I admire as I start shrinking with age.
Well, it's interesting the difference between writing something and saying something. It's like as you do your spoken word shows and you have these stories that you want to tell, but I would imagine that you probably write out a good most of it. Do you do that?
Some of it. I mean,
or some of it you just know the story, so you just tell the story way.
When I'm out in the world, I'll be out all day, like taking photos or whatever, voulez-vooing with the locals, getting information. Then I come back somewhere and I write it up. Or I'll take, sometimes you're in a place like Haiti, you don't want to be outside at noon. The sun will just like beat you up. So you find shade, make your notes. So I'm always trying to make notes. And then at night, I write it all up. A lot of that turns into a book. Like I use every part of the deer. Like when I go somewhere, I make soup, jewelry, a coat, every part gets used. And so the books come from that, but some stories from those travels, I mull them over in my mind. And the show for me, when I'm on stage, it just can't be mere reportage. There has to be something, there has to be an aroma coming from it. There has to be a lilt. There has to be something a wisdom or some kind of melody that comes from the raw information. Like I took all these notes and got the Houses of the Holy album, which is just, it's component parts, but it was mixed together in a way where it's like this beautiful thing. And so that often takes weeks. where like, so I saw this. What was the story? Well, the guy fell over, but no, it wasn't. At 6 weeks of thinking about it, it wasn't him. He's not the story. It's the guy who was watching and did nothing. That's the story. And all of a sudden, the whole angle changes. And so I'll mull these things over because I have a lot of time. I live alone. And so by the time a story gets to the stage, it's like a stone that's been rolled and polished. And I will, there's parts of the valley, Ventura Boulevard, where at night there's nothing but dog walkers and joggers. All the shops are closed. I will park in a parking lot and I'll walk about a mile each way, talking out loud, saying the stories out loud.
People are going to go looking for you now.
Yeah.
Henry's practicing his one-man show.
That's why I don't give the location, because you will go, wow, I remember that one. And I will let my brain hear my voice say them, and I'll make edits while I'm walking. Like, okay, no, that's a dead end. And I've been doing this for years. And I do it on the treadmill in my mind. You know, like I'll just like kind of mumble to myself, where people will come over in a gym like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm just, just say actor, and they'll go, oh yeah, no. Yeah, and that's the kind of preparation I do, because I don't believe in warm-up shows. Like, who wants to see your warm-up show? Like, oh, thanks for your demo. Like, screw you, I paid money. I want A game. And so I only understand come in with the A game. And so I do all my wood shedding alone. And so by the time I hit stage, that story is very evolved. And then it continues to every night. I keep shaving the parts off, and it's a chiseled thing of beauty a few nights in.
Yeah, I found that you really can only do so much on the written page or on the screen. You have to evolve it in front of a live audience, especially with stand-up, which you're essentially doing.
Pretty much.
You're doing I listened to a bunch of your older stuff, and it's essentially a form of stand-up,
Yep.
It's like, there's different kinds of music, right? I mean, there's rock and roll, there's blues, there's jazz. There's different kinds of stand-up as well.
Sure.
And yours is a storytelling stand-up.
Yeah.
And with that, it's going to evolve in front of the live audience.
Well, like on my Showtime special, tomorrow night at 10
p.m. on
Showtime.
Showtime.
You'll hear stories. And
it's called Keep Talking, Pal.
It is. And a lot of that is just storytelling. And it is funny. I mean, but I always leave room in my resume, because I don't want to tie myself to comedy, because when I'm telling the story about the part of wherever like Bangladesh I was in that wasn't funny, I don't want to be in a comedy club with some guy going, wait a minute, I didn't pay for this. Make me laugh, idiot. And so I don't want to be selling a false bill of goods. And so sometimes quite often it's funny, but sometimes it's not. But for me, events plus time, if there are no casualties, if it was just mere injury, maybe an eye, it is pretty funny. A week later, after the scabs have fallen off, it's pretty funny.
Well, the thing is also that you don't have a restricted sort of form in which you have to perform in. By doing it spoken word style, you essentially can do whatever you want.
Yes, and I need that freedom, because I can't be dependent upon to make you laugh all the time.
Right, yeah. Like there's the thing about stand-up is part of it I really like, because it forces you to use economy of words and boil your ideas down into this very clear rhythm where you like keep hammering them with laughs. But part of it is, and where I get my freedom is from this, like from doing podcasts, like so I can express myself in ways and get thoughts across where it doesn't have to have any form. It can be funny, or it can be not. It can be depressing or funny and sad,
and it doesn't have to
happy.
Realize itself in 11 seconds.
Yes, right. And it doesn't have to have an impact. Like there's a thing about stand-up is that you're always getting a reaction, and if you don't get that reaction, it is not successful. You can call it whatever you want. You can say, "Oh, this is stand-up," but I'm talking about stand-up, or I'm talking about things that are tragic in my stand-up, so it's deeper and more meaningful. It's like, okay. But then it's not really stand-up. Stand-up is funny.
Yep.
And once it stops being funny, then you're doing something else.
Right.
You're doing spoken word, or you're doing a play or a one-person show or whatever it is.
Right. And I would never dare go into a comedy club and do what I do.
You never do that? You never go to an improv or something like that?
2 times in my life. One time, the venue I was supposed to be in got knocked out because of a storm. And so they said, we've moved your show to like the Laugh Dungeon. And I was in some place in the East Coast with like 80,000 headshots on the wall, that little parquet stage, the PV boxes, the PA screwed into the wall. And I did my talking show, and my audience are all sitting at these tables going, why are we here? And on the last big tour in 2016, I don't like nights off. And they said, okay, Thanksgiving. I said, find me a show. They said, we found you a show. It's a comedy club next to a strip bar. And there's no backstage. There's no monitors. There's just 2 boxes in the wall. Family owned, really nice people. And I forget where it was, somewhere in Illinois. I was one show, one night. My tour bus was rumbling away in the parking lot. The next night, I think it was like 3 nights of Ralphie May, the great comedian. But it was a straight up comedy club. And I went in there and I just kind of did what I've been doing for like the last 9 months on the road. And a lot of it was very funny. And the audience was fantastic. And so the owner, I came up to the owner, I said, I'd play this place again anytime. Thank you so much. And he said, well, you know where we are anytime. We loved it. We like you. And you're always welcome here. And that, I don't know if it was my audience or a comedy audience. I said, how did the show do? He's like, oh, it sold out in a day. I mean, you know, you're a name. And I think, but I said, so the audience, he goes, oh, I recognize these people. This is my local comedy crowd. They just know you from Sons of Anarchy or whatever. So we'll see how you go. And it was fine. And it turned into like this 2-hour laugh riot. It was just great. It was a super fun show.
And you don't have an opening act or anything. You just go right out.
No. Because I torture them enough.
Yeah.
It's just me. Can I ask you a professional question?
Sure.
Feel free to edit this out. When you're on stage and like you're doing like a big theater, like where you're the main guy at like a big Saturday night somewhere, how long are you on stage for?
Usually an hour and 10 to an hour and 20 minutes.
Okay, 70 to 80 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just fascinated because I live in a bubble. I just do my own thing. I'm on stage for like 2 hours and 40 minutes.
I bring an opening act.
And what do they do?
Between 20 and 30.
And how many openers?
1. Sometimes I bring 2. That's rare, but it's usually just for fun.
So
just 2
it'll
buddies.
be 2 people at the most,
Yeah.
and they'll do a total of 40 minutes, and then there's
Yes.
a brief intermission before you
no
come
intermission.
on?
They
So
just
it's
bring
like
me on.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, bang, 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 we go. And the show could be 80 minutes, 90 minutes.
And so the whole
Yeah.
thing, you and
Could be
2
2
openers,
hours.
it's like 2-point-something hours,
It could be 2 hours, yeah, easily, yeah.
but that's the whole night.
That's the whole night.
And are you ever on your own with nobody?
Never.
Okay, so there's always an opener,
Yes.
usually 1.
Yes.
And so that's 20 minutes and 70 to 80. So the whole night is a little less than 2 hours.
Dependent upon the show, whether or not we have 2 shows in a night. A short show is an hour and a half, which I like a Rock'em Sock'em Robots hour and a half, like a movie. You go to a movie and it's 2.5 hours. Even if it's really good, it's like, whoa.
Oh, no, you feel
lot
it.
of sitting
the last
there.
20 minutes,
Yeah.
you really feel the lack of editing.
But an hour and a half is bang, 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 bang. Good night.
Yeah.
Like,
And so
they get
how
it.
many 2 sets a night do you do?
Often. Yeah, I'll do
A
it.
7 and a 9 or
Yeah,
whatever?
something like that. I'll do it pretty often, depending about the size of the venue. You know, some places is a giant place. I'll do 1 show, or, you know. But I've done a lot of, especially this last year. I did a lot of 2 shows at night in big theaters and stuff. You know, it's a lot of turnaround too, because you got to clear out all those people
Sure.
and get a new crowd in there.
I just, I work alone.
Right.
And I don't have a peer group, really. If I do, I'm not trying to find them. And I'm just curious about how other people do their thing, because I live alone in a tour bus, like with, a
Yeah.
road manager and a bus driver and a merch guy. And I have no opener, except in Australia, there's a rule they want 1 for 1. And so there's this opener I've used for years.
An Australian opener?
Yeah. They want 1 American, 1 Australian, which I really like. They used to do that with music.
You know, they don't do that with me. When I'm there, I bring American openers.
Oh, well, they with me the last few years, like I've gotten to bigger places, and my agent has said, "Okay, you're gonna have an opener." And I've used this guy, used him. He's done like shows with me for like 3 tours. He's hilarious, really low key. He's a really
his
nice
name?
guy. I'm forgetting. Well, I see the guy every 3 years, so
Right.
it's not in the memory. But he's great, and he's super funny. He's real smart, and the audience loves him. I mean, I think he's kind of known, but he's great. And he does like, I don't know, 20 minutes, whatever it is, and then I
Right.
go do my thing. But that's It's not in every city in Australia. It's like in a couple of places.
Oh, so there's
And it's like some kind of thing.
regional rules.
Yeah, and it's happened a few times when I would do music, like, okay, 4 guys on stage, we're going to have a 4-person opener. Like, okay, man. And I kind of like that. Like, give the local band some time, or give the local guy a moment in front of his hometown audience, or let him tour with me. I love that idea. But that's the only time. And or every once in a while, I was at Bonnaroo once, and it was tremendously lopsided. It was me and Tig Notaro, who's amazing. I don't know her very well, but I've seen her on stage. And she was she didn't exactly open for me, but she did like half an hour and I did like an hour. It was like, and they cleared the tent, and then Cheech Marin came on. But Lewis Black was before me. It was like 3 tent loads of people in one night at Bonnaroo. And that's the only time I've ever done and every once in a while I'll be at a festival where you're like the 8 to 9:30 guy, and then the 10 o'clock guy comes on stage. But quite often I'm just on my own on tour, and I'm the only thing on stage.
It's a different thing for me. I have to have my friends with me. Otherwise I get bored. Like I go on the road, like almost everyone I take on the road with me is a national headliner who would normally be headlining somewhere on their own. Like they're not.
So it's a cool double bill.
Yeah, it's a cool double bill, but it's also, I want the best guys that I can find, and I pay them well to go on in front of me. I don't want it to be a bad show by any stretch of the imagination. So I try to get the best guys, but also by that, then I'm traveling with the best guys. So we're having fun. Like it's a weird group. Like stand-ups, there's not that many of us. There's like maybe 1,000 of us in the whole country that are like real professional comedians, maybe 500 headliners in the whole country. So there's just not that many of us. And so when we relate to each other in sort of a weird way.
Yeah, well, there's not many of you.
Yeah.
It's like when presidents get together. There's like 4 of them. They all, they're kind of chummy because they might be opposed, but they all kind of know, they're the only people who know that stuff.
Especially when they're out. They did their time.
And they can relax.
And they just look like they've been sucked dry by a vampire.
I noticed when when Obama welcomed the President-elect Trump to the Oval Office for that 90-minute meeting that Trump thought was going to last 15 minutes, Obama looked like Tutankhamun. He just his skin was so drawn across his face. It's like a snare drum.
Well, he must have been so exhausted.
Well, I think any
his
presidency
legacy is going to be taken over.
Just any president, like George W. Bush, was to me a handsome, energetic guy when he got into office. But 8 years and 9/11 and in the invasion and occupation of Iraq, on the way out, his face had fallen, his hair had dyed. And I'm not a guy who hates him, just disagrees. But the presidency killed that guy. Yeah. I mean, I just think the stress, because you don't get the nice phone call, hey, we got the cat out of the tree. It's like, hey, we lost 8 guys. That thing you said go, it went south.
Well, I'm very curious to see how Trump comes out of this, because he's one of the older guys to get in there. I think he's 70 or 71, right? And in the past year, like there's a picture of Bush from 2000 and 2008.
See what I'm saying?
That's crazy.
I mean, it kicked his ass. And I'm not trying to put him in the pejorative.
Yeah, it's just reality.
It's like when you see those really amazing photos of Lincoln during the Civil War, or Lyndon Johnson in those think tank meetings, him and McNamara, his face is sliding off his skull because he's getting those phone calls. Hey, we just lost 600 guys, Mr. President. We're really sorry to give you this news, because he insisted on getting the bad phone call. And you see what it does to a human being.
Yeah.
And I noticed it with Bush and Obama, because those were trying times for both presidents. Those very trying administrations. And I wonder what it's going to do to a guy who doesn't take care of himself, who is carrying a lot of weight, probably nowhere near the best diet. And I hope he doesn't have some kind of heart attack. I mean, I'm not the kind of guy who wants people to die.
He easily could.
But man, you look at him, you're like, man, you need to listen to the White House doctor, get on a plan, because they can really rock you. They can help you lose 40 pounds by spring of next year, and you can really feel better. You look at him, you're like, man, there's someone in the White House who can help you with that. Like, they're paid to get you on the track every morning. They could get him up at 5 a.m, get him out there. And
he's not going to do it. He's got to watch Fox News.
Something.
He's got to agree or disagree with those people on the TV.
It's too bad, because a president has all those people who are like ready. They're already in their jogging outfits, like a dog who wants to go to the park, waiting to train him.
Yeah.
And it's and a dietitian. They could like rock those calories.
I don't think he wants it. I don't think he gives a
You-
shit.
well, you have to want
Apparently,
it.
he drinks like 12 Diet Cokes a day.
Huh.
That's one of the things they were saying.
With that diet window you were talking about, when you do eat, are you eating? You have a family.
Yeah.
Is it the dinner table? Are
Yeah.
you eating at home with the
A lot
family?
of times that's the meal. Yeah.
Is your family, is that meal targeted? Like nutrition for the kids, nutrition for dad? I mean, do you guys eat smart?
No, the kids actually eat very healthy. Yeah, we've been eating together really healthy since they were babies. That's all. I mean, they're always eating vegetables and some healthy meat. They eat a lot of wild game because I hunt.
Right.
So they eat really healthy. They have. It's an interesting thing with kids too. If you shield them from interesting foods, like my 8-year-old loves kimchi. She loves spicy Korean fermented cabbage, which to a lot of kids would be disgusting. She loves it. Right. She eats like fucking plates of it. And because of that, she rarely gets sick. She eats a lot of probiotics and healthy foods. So they're always eating fruit and vegetables. They've been doing it since they were a little kid. We don't stop them from eating candy. But I do tell them what candy is. And I showed them that sugar documentary. And I've talked to them in length about how sugar didn't used to be something that people ate all the time. No. And it's a really recent thing. I've showed them photographs of people from like the 1800s and the early 1900s. Like, look what these people looked like. They were thin. They were different. They had a different diet. But now we just eat too many carbohydrates, and it's fine every now and then. Like, don't keep it from yourself. But understand that these are empty calories, and they make your body, they actually make you tired.
Well, a thing I've noticed, I look at people when I travel. I just find our species is fascinating all over the world. You look at people's teeth in parts of the world where sugar and corn syrup is just not normal. And you see like these 75-year-old women like carrying a couch up a hill, and their teeth are these bright white tree trunks, just like they're never going to fall out of their heads.
Right.
And like no dentistry. That no noticeable dentistry, and the teeth are gleaming white, maybe darkened from tobacco or tea, but nothing like in the West where their teeth are just getting assaulted by our own diet. And you see people of great age with they're just ripped. And you look at what they're eating, like fish, rice, vegetables. Yeah. And it's all lean, smart food. And the sugars are all monosaccharides, like fruit sugar. Mm-hmm. The occasional banana or orange is a treat. Yeah. But, the sugar's really not in the diet at all. Yeah. Maybe and rice
nor
breaking
should it
down.
Be,
but not like we are doing it.
No. Yeah, no one's ever done it the way we're doing it, and no one's ever been as fat. Yeah. And then we have these things to shield people from. We call it fat shaming. Don't tell someone they're fat. Let them just be morbidly obese and go through life at a massive risk of heart attack or stroke or diabetes. Don't say anything, because then you'll hurt their feelings. Meanwhile, you could say something to someone, and it might be uncomfortable in the moment. Like, hey, Mike, listen, I don't want to be that guy, but you got to lose some weight. And then that guy could go and look in the mirror and go, fuck, I really do need to lose some weight. Yeah. And then they'll lose some weight, and they'll be healthier, and they'll talk to you 4 or 5 months later and go, you fucked my head up that day. And because of that, I really started changing the way I eat, and I'm so much healthier, and I feel better.
Because he's your friend.
My friend Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer, they did this thing last year, 2 years ago, where they had a weight loss competition. And one of the things they kept doing is fat shaming each other, like ruthlessly. And they would use hashtag Bert is fat, hashtag Tom is fat. And they had this weight loss competition. Oh, and they fucking both lost a shitload of weight. I think they both lost between 50 and 60 pounds. Yeah. Wow. And they looked fucking incredible. But then after it was over, Tom was like, dude, let me tell you something. Fat shaming works. It works. It got me off my ass. I realized I was a fat fuck, and it made me lose weight. It doesn't feel good. That shaming thing is fat shaming doesn't work on people who aren't fat. Okay? It works on people who have a problem but don't want to address that problem. So you bring up that problem, and then they go, oh, you're making me feel bad by thinking about my problem. You're a bad person. Yeah. No, you have a weak spot. That weak spot shouldn't be there. You shouldn't belabor it and constantly ridicule someone for being fat. But the idea that you're never supposed to bring it up, even with someone you care about, even in jest or friends busting balls, like, no, you should bring it up, because that bad feeling is a gift. It makes you realize, like, oh my God, I've been remiss. I haven't been paying attention to my own physical sovereignty. You know, I have control over what goes in my body. I have control over the amount of calories I take in, the kind of calories. I have control over how much body fat I'm carrying around. And there's ways to fix it.
Yeah. I think you should use discretion.
Yes, and should
like
try
maybe
to be
not in
kind.
line at the supermarket.
No, and to people you'd like.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just, but it was funny to hear Tom he was getting angry. He's like, fucking fat shaming works, man. All these people that say don't fat shame, fuck, that's how I got skinny. Fat shaming works.
Yeah, until but like, again.
Yes, don't be rude to someone out in public for no reason.
Don't drive an 11-year-old to suicide.
Yeah, definitely don't do that.
But so yeah, but
the little kids is the worst because like their parents will get them hooked on those sugary sodas. And once it's the goddamn sodas, man. I mean, that is one of the primary causes for people being fat in this country. And it just seems so innocuous. It's just in a glass. I'll just drink this. It's got some ice cubes. No big deal.
It goes down so fast.
Yeah, it tastes great.
On the weekends, I like ginger beer and the Bundabergs. It's the same power as a Coke. I mean, it's a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
And I buy a 4-pack and I have 1 bottle a week. Saturday night, my big drink. Like, woo!
Discipline.
He's going nuts. Look at him. He's got his drink. And
nothing wrong with that.
It's just the best tasting stuff, but man, it tastes good for a reason. It's so sweet. And like you just want the next one when you're done. But man, I could drink them all day, but I just can't do that to my system. So I do 1 a week.
That's good discipline.
Yeah. But it's like, something to look forward to.
Do you have a diet that you follow other than that?
Yeah. I mean, I love ice cream, so I don't eat it. I try not to because my body is slowed down with age. I just can't shed pounds. But I've never really had a weight problem. I've never I gotta lose 30 pounds. My metabolism is such where I'm always kind of like a greyhound, like always kind of nervous. And
well, you're always working out as well.
yeah,
right?
but I also I'm always kind of like
doing something.
Yeah, and just kind of uptight, kind of nervy.
Well, you talked the last time you were about the fact that your parents had you on Ritalin from the time you were a really small boy.
Yeah.
Do you think that just wired you in a certain
be.
way?
I don't know, but I mean I would need a doctor to tell me. But it's not a subtle drug, especially when you're a little kid. But I try and eat as clean as I can because more energy, less need for sleep, and not feeling so bad all the time mentally, like not feeling like I don't want to do anything. With a good diet, I feel better mentally. And like I said before, I've been struggling with trying to feel okay. I don't even need to feel good. I just want to be neutral.
Right.
Not just like,
not in deficit.
Okay to be here. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Not asking for much. And I found a good diet really, really rocks that. Where I feel when I do the bad meal, like a depression meal, like tons of carbs. For like a day later, I'm just like, oh man, I'm feeling every bite of that. And so I don't want to feel like that. So I'm like, nope, can't do that because it's just not worth it.
So what kind of food do you eat? Like what's a typical meal for you?
Today I had a salad with some chopped up chicken with a low-calorie dressing on it and a cup of coffee. And tonight I'm going to have a glass of carrot juice with a splash of beet juice and probably half a cup of coffee. The other half of the cup I started this morning.
That's your dinner?
Yeah, I already.
So it's basically the salad with the chicken is your whole day.
Yeah, I'll eat tomorrow.
Wow.
I'll be good and hungry tomorrow. If I'm feeling like I can't sleep, I'm distracted from hunger, I've got some peanuts in my room, and I'll have a handful of peanuts.
So you eat very clean.
I don't know what that
drinking?
means.
You eat very clean by that diet.
I thought very clean was like some kind of thing.
No.
I try and eat clean because I have found I get great results with it. Like it is no joke. It totally works. And as we do in our line of work, I got a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of stuff. I got a TV show, a lot of shows, a lot of a couple of speeches. I got a teaching a class at UCLA. One day coming up, November. But
what are you teaching?
They just want me to talk about music and culture, and I just got asked to talk about change at another place. And I have a bunch of shows coming up from here to Kiev, Ukraine. And just a lot of marks I got to hit. It's just what I do. And so I'm basically getting ready to walk out of the house until about Christmas and be hitting marks and not screwing up day after day, night after night. And so diet, is a lot goes into that prep, big time.
Well, it makes sense. If you're demanding that much out of your body, you really don't want your body struggling with shitty nutrition.
I can't afford it. Like my car can't go off the road. I can't fail. I'm going to be screwing up. Like if I hit that set, I'm going to be on a TV show soon. I can't not know the lines. I can't be tired. I can't look like I haven't slept. I got to be A game.
Do you take any vitamins or supplements or anything like that?
I try and I forget, and then they go stale. I have the 5 lined up. My friend Heidi said, "Okay, here," and I got into it, and eventually they get put in the cupboard, and and then you look at them like, oh, 3 years ago, whoops.
Yeah.
And so that's why I do like the carrot and beet juice, just so that those kind of vitamins are coming through, and I do that like almost every day. I just like the way it tastes too. But no, I can't. I've never been able to stick with it. I just forget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have you ever had anything that you took that gave you great benefits?
I never noticed.
No, just
the only thing I've ever noticed is restorative sleep for just general concentration and well-being, and the cleaner I eat, the better I feel. Caffeine, I don't know if I get jumped up on it. I can't tell. And so as far as anything I've ever done, working out is an antidepressant. Good diet is an antidepressant and makes me a more efficient when I'm awake. Other than that, I've never taken cod fish oil or whatever and said, wow, my joints feel better. Mm-hmm. I'm not aware enough, or I'm not expecting it to work. So I have no thing I can hold up and go, this really helped me. Besides physical fitness, getting the work done, like you want to alleviate anxiety before an audition, rehearse, go in prepared. And then there's nothing to be worried about because you can't wait to show the guy what you got.
Right.
And so preparation, good diet, and finishing the thing so you can really clear the deck. Those are the things, because for me, my whole life is don't be depressed. I work so hard not to feel bad. A lot of what I do is to not feel really bad.
It's interesting that you've chosen to do this in a non-pharmaceutical way, like specifically. You've strategies.
I'm just afraid of it.
Yeah.
I just don't believe that someone I don't know can come up with a drug that's going to work for my unique little mind. And I've seen people on antidepressants. I said, so how's that working for you? Like, I think I'm losing my mind. I've been doing this for 3 months, and I don't know who I am right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I have that problem anyway, so I don't want any pharmaceuticals to enhance that. I'm just basically afraid.
That's a legitimate concern.
Yeah, I think the brain is real fragile. And I'm not one of those types who say all medication is bad. I'm not that. Anything having to do with the brain, I'd rather just deal with what I got.
Right.
And use these more kind of on the ground ideas. Like I'll just sweat a lot. Yeah. I'm going to do a lot of pull-ups. And whenever I do like a ton of push-ups or like get on the stationary bike or whatever, I do feel better.
Yeah.
And when I eat the lean fish salad, the salmon and the spinach, I do feel better. I feel great.
Yeah.
And that's good enough for me.
Yeah, you've got successful strategies.
They were working for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you do so many different things. At this point of your life, do you have like specific goals that you set out for the year, or where you would like to be a year from now? Or do you just do things that are really interesting to you and just pursue them with passion and just let the chips fall where they may?
I do that, and I don't have a goal. Like at 65, I want to be here. I have no idea where I'll be. I'm trying to get ready for 2019. I have no plans yet. I'm just hoping for a lot of work. I don't have those kind of long-range plans. Unfortunately, I'm a short-ranged to no-ranged person, and a lot of my motivation is vengeance. And I know that revenge and vengeance are synonyms.
Right.
However, the fact that revenge has "re" in it, like you do this, I do that.
Right.
Vengeance is just like the difference between aggression and hostility. Were you aggro? No. I'm hostile. What does that mean? Wham with the ashtray. That's hostility.
Right.
Like, you just hit me. Yes, but I'm not aggressive. I just like watching you bleed. And so,
That's so ridiculous.
right. And I'm not saying it makes sense.
I know.
And so I don't believe in tit for tat. I believe in tit tat. Watch me just jump up and down and just break it all.
But you want to prove yourself.
Yes.
This is a primary motivation
And
for you.
so I wake up every day wanting to get back at every teacher, every guy at school, every bad boss, whatever parent irked me. And like every day, I out everything you, man. And that's why, like, hey, it's 4 a.m. You want to work? Yeah. Like, I'll work in a snowstorm. Like, as you know, someone I know, like they go on vacation. I'm like, have a nice vacation. And every day you're getting tan. I'm not quitting. Like, it's ridiculous. I'm an 11-year-old. It's so juvenile, and it's not cool. But
it's fuel in some way.
I don't spray paint your house.
Right.
I'm not flattening your tire. I'm just working. And when someone goes, oh, I didn't get up early enough and how'd you get 5 of those? Because I got up at 3 and I stood outside and I ate this rat tail and I climbed the wall and I got it. And I got 2 of them. And because so you could have none. I'm so mad. And I'm not trying to get somewhere by stepping on you to use you as a ladder rung.
But you cling to this. This is not something you ever plan on abandoning.
It's the corner I come fighting out of. It's my true north. Is like, oh yeah, all right,
Fuck you.
Yeah. And it really works. And it's not like I would never cheat someone out of something or steal from them. But whoever gets up earlier is going to get it. Then I just won't sleep tonight. My anger will keep me awake. What are you having for dinner? This? I mean, and that's all I need. Like you say, I can't. Like, then I'll just sit up all night. Because that's all I need.
But who are these people? Like when you say I can't. Does anybody really say you can at this point in time, or do you have to manufacture these people?
Oh, I totally manufacture. Are you kidding? Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you have these people in your head. It's Henry, you're a loser. Oh, I'm a loser. Oh, what the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like yeah. And this doesn't mean I'm walking over to hit somebody.
No.
I'm not looking to get beat up. I'm just
motivating yourself.
Yeah, and I don't have an entourage. All I got is me. So I get the pom-poms out. Go, push them back. All I got is me. I'm up in my office, like at 4 a.m, just like, okay, I'm on Australian jet lag. I'm going to make it work. I've been up since 1:30. I'm going to work for 16 hours. And I do. Why? Because I'm mad at it. Do I need to write another book? Probably not. Must I? Yes, I must. I must put that into the world.
And so you create these people that are telling you can't do it.
The world tells me I can't.
The world.
And I make money. I never count it. The accountant does. We talk a few times a year.
You just make sure it's coming in.
I just say, am I doing anything horribly wrong? And she'll say, well, from your receipts, it doesn't look like you eat very much, but you sure seem to like records. Are you eating those? But past that, I just book it, put me in there. Like, here's 5 shows. Can I have 5 more? So I don't really count. I want to do well. I want to pay my bills, and I don't want to lose my house. I want to keep eating and filling the car with gasoline and going to the grocery store. But I'm not just trying to, hey, I got a lot of money. I can hang around. I got some money, and excuse me, I really got to go.
We still drive that boring car?
The Mazda 6
yeah.
still keeps getting me from A to B. Yeah, super boring, but damn, does it keep starting up.
Yeah.
Got me here.
I love Japanese cars.
I got it because Heidi said, you're getting this car. The other car I had, they took from me. The powers that be. I was the voice of Infinity Car for about 5 years. And they give you a new car every year, and that's a good car. Wow,
nice.
That's a great car.
I had one of those big Q trucks, those Q whatever they are. They're great.
Yep. And it's the car of the future. And when the contract finally came to an end, they said, okay, we'll come and get the car. This is a perfect example, Joe. We'll come and get the car in 30 days. I went, no, come and get it tomorrow morning. Screw you. Screw your car. And I said to Heidi, because she's the brains, I said, I need a new car. She goes, you're getting a Mazda 6. It's going to be blue, and I'm picking the interior. get in my car.
Why didn't you just get an Infinity? You're driving them forever.
Because
they paid you.
They didn't want me anymore.
Wow. I mean, all good things come to an end. Wow, double fingers.
You don't want me anymore? And we went to the lot, and 2 hours later, I parked the Mazda 6 next to the Infinity that got taken while I was on the set of a TV show the next morning. And I drove my new car to the set. And
it's kind of shit compared to the Infinity, though, isn't it?
It's a different kind of ride. It makes you very humble because you floor it, and the 9 gerbils go, "Come on, we're working," and the sunflower seeds fall out, and every other car passes you, and you're like, "Oh, I'm coming," and you get used to a nice ride. But it's and that was that. She said, what? We'll take a couple of days. I'll go, no, new car right now.
But that's my question. Like,
9 a.m.
you can
tomorrow
afford
morning.
a really nice car. I mean, you work really hard.
Yep.
Like, do you take any compensation, or do you have any like happiness that you derive from buying something?
I have a really good
ridiculous stereo. Yeah, we talked about it last time you were here. You giant speakers. But, but don't you want a car that has a crazy stereo as well?
Nah, I just go to Trader Joe's and auditions. And to the Joe Rogan podcast. No, I live a really utilitarian life. Like in LA when I'm off the road.
You don't even wear a watch?
No, I use the phone.
Yeah.
I use the watch when I travel, just so I can just like see the time. But when I'm off the road, I just use the phone. It's just laziness. I live very utilitarian here because basically I'm just counting down the days before I leave again because a lot of my work happens out in the world, location, like a film or TV show, or just touring or traveling. Last year, Heidi said something funny. She said, "You're driving me crazy at the office, like pacing and huffing and puffing like a wild animal." She said, I'm going to book you a trip and you can't know where you're going till the day you leave. I'm just going to get you out of here for 10 days because you're driving me crazy. I will kill you. So I said, book it. And so I said, all I need is the right electrical plug and the basic temperature range so I know how to pack. She gave it to me, and I picked the itinerary up, got in the car to go to the airport. This nice lady takes me to the airport. She goes, "Where are we going today, hun?" I said, "Let's see where the boss is sending me." I said, "I'm going to Lima, Peru." And so I was in Lima and Cusco for a week working on my book manuscript and walking the streets up in the Peruvian Andes up in Cusco. And so a lot of my life happens out in the world. So when I'm here, I'm just editing and prepping to get out of here. And so a car, low maintenance, clothes, low maintenance.
Inconspicuous.
Yeah,
I try
not to have anything on the shirt. I'd love to have a Listen to Black Sabbath t-shirt on. I'd wear that one every day. I love that shirt. But I'm always trying to slip through crowds and just head down, just blank clothes.
You have a very interesting philosophy, and like I said, your work ethic and your philosophy, it's very inspiring because it makes me want to work more. It really does. When I talk to you and I listen to you talk.
I think you get plenty done, sir.
I know I do, but that's one of the reasons why I do is because I get inspired by people like yourself.
Me too. I get inspired by you and other people. I love getting inspired. I live a fairly solitary life, but I have a lot of heroes. I'm a fan of bands and people. I dig presidents and other people in other countries. I go to see bands play and they don't know, but I have all their records. I have the bootlegs. I'm an uber fan of so many people, like a fraction my age. Because I need that. I need to be pumped up by other people. And it works. You put on someone's record, you're like, yeah, man, that's great. Well, he's 19. What does he know? Plays a guitar better than I'll ever. I mean, like, well, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And so it can come in all kinds of ways. I meet amazing people when I travel. So I need that. And the only thing good about me, in my opinion, is what I do. Like, don't be my friend. I'm no good. I'll help you move your house. I'll help you move or paint your house, but I don't want to come to Thanksgiving dinner. I really don't. But if you're in trouble, I'll drive from here to Ohio to get you out of the trouble. I'm so happy to bail you out of a jam.
You just don't want to come over for dinner.
I don't want to come over for the holidays. And
unless you're William Shatner.
Yeah, weird, right? So what's good about me, when people say, "Oh, I would love to hang out with you," I'm like, no, just your books are interesting. Thank you. Let me go write them. That's the only when I'm on stage or got the books or the radio show I do on KCRW, that's my human greatest hits. The rest of my life, I'm just a nervous wreck trying to get somewhere on time and kick ass. And so I travel for months at a time with road manager Ward, my road manager of many years, a top guy, fantastic guy. There's hours that go by where we don't talk. He's got a life. I have a life, and we sit on the bus and hours go by and there's no sound except the TV, whatever's
That's
on.
nice.
It's fine. But what's good about me is what you see on stage, on the page, when I do my little radio show. The rest of it, I'm not good friend material, but I will help your ass out of a jam. Like, hey, I'm in Long Beach. Can you come bail me out of jail? It's 3 a.m. I'm so ready to do that for you. Like that.
That's a very unusual quality.
I don't know what it is.
Why do you find?
I don't know, but that doesn't bug me at all. I'm just happy to kind of be the dog with the bottle of alcohol.
Barrel.
Yeah, running up the hill. Because I'm so happy to get you out of a jam. Just, hey, come and meet the family. Please don't make me meet your family.
How did you meet Joey? How'd you meet Joey Diaz?
I think Heidi set that up.
You'd never met him before you did
I think
a show?
that was via Heidi, via you.
Ah.
Yeah. I knew who he was, and he's a really lovable guy. As soon as I met him, I liked him just by seeing him online. But when I met him, there's nothing not to like. He's so honest. He's full exposure. Like who he is, you get it in 60 seconds.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people like him, because there's no BS. And there's the good, the bad of anybody. He lets you know who he is in the first 5 minutes, and you can take or leave it.
Yeah.
But there's no ambiguity. And I really like being around that, because you can be yourself, because he has shown up being himself.
Yeah.
He's not holding back.
That's a really good way of looking at it. You can be yourself because he is being himself.
Totally.
And he's not going to judge you on that. He's going to give you the freedom. He's going to be himself, but give you also the freedom to be yourself.
Unlimited.
Yeah.
I mean, it was we spoke for a while on his podcast, had a great time. And he's one of those guys, if he called me at 3 a.m, hey, I'm in trouble, I'm in San Diego, I'm like, hold on. Give me 3 hours. I mean, I'll help you. Come and meet the family. Please. Just send
it's so specific.
Send a card.
That's so specific.
But I'm just I don't want to come over. But
you don't want bullshit small talk, and you got things to do, and you're obsessed.
But I'm not. What I'm trying to get across is I'm not mean spirited. I'm
just a little
so
awkward.
happy to help.
Yeah,
just a lot awkward.
Yeah,
but always ready to help.
But I think that the thing of that awkwardness is the fuel. It's like we were talking about having imposter syndrome that I don't think it ever goes away. I thought one day it would go away. I'm more comfortable meeting famous people now than I've ever been before, but I still feel full of shit. I think you always will, and everybody that I've ever talked to that's any good, they all say the same thing. Like they all kind of feel like no one ever feels like they're anything special, and you always like
if they're any good, they don't.
No, and you always ruthlessly self-critical
and trying to get better. I mean, I've worked with big actors, big rock stars. And the big rock stars, like one big rock star one time said to me, I opened, he said, is there anyone out there? I said, like 19,000 people. You smell the WD-40? That's how they got the last 1,000 people in. Are you kidding? He said, I'm always worried that no one's going to show up. I said, when has that ever been your problem? He said, well, never, but...
Who is this?
Ozzy.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, who's just one of my favorite people. He's another guy.
Is anyone out
He's
there?
Honest.
How many people?
Hey, man, is there anyone out there, man? And I said, are you kidding? We're like in some Floridian megadome. I was thinking there won't be anyone out there, man.
No.
And he goes out there and the place goes nuts. The show is great.
Of course.
And I said, you worry about people don't show up? I get really depressed, man. And I went, okay. And, I did the Beacon Theater once many years ago in New York. Beautiful room.
Love that place.
I was a few days later. I was at MTV doing something with like Matt Pinfield or somebody. I was living in New York, and I'm leaving, and the courtesy lady, she said, "Hey, George Carlin is in the green room, and he wants to meet you." I went, "Wait a minute, dumb question. The George Carlin?" Because I've been listening to that guy since I was in 8th grade. Class Clown and Occupation Fool actually came out for me to go to the record store. They were not nice price records. They were what was on. That's how old I am. Memorized them by 8th grade, of course. And I said, "George Carlin wants to meet me." Okay. Walk in, and there's George Carlin. He's there to promote his next HBO thing. And he's going to do like multiple nights at the Beacon Theater, place I would never sell out. He was going to do a month there, whatever. And he said, "Hey, I said, Mr. Carlin." I'm George. I'm like, wow. He said, "Oh, you did a book signing the other night at Tower Records." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, man, it was so cool. I was in line for like half an hour. And finally I got so cold I went home." I said, "You waited in line to meet me?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Why don't you just walk in?" Like, "Oh, I can't do that, man." And
wow.
And he said, "So you just were at the Beacon?" I said, "Yeah, it was amazing." He said, "Did they get the jokes?" I said, uh-oh, because that's not really what I do. I said, "I'm sorry, what do you mean?" He goes like, can you get to the audience from that stage?" I said, "It's actually a pretty big place. It's a lot of feet before the first row." I said, "Yeah." I said, "You're George Carlin. I think you're going to do okay." But he was sincerely wondering, like, is it going to be okay in there? I'm like, are you kidding? You were handcuffed with Lenny Bruce in the back of a cop car, and you're asking me if it's going to be okay?
Was he handcuffed with Lenny Bruce?
Yeah, it's in that great book.
Arrested?
It's in that great book, Ladies and Gentlemen, Lenny Bruce.
I got that book.
It's a great read. That's a read and a half. I read it like 22 years ago. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I think I read it that long ago too.
Okay.
I forgot about George
There was
Carlin.
a time when as you know, the First Amendment was not being used in Lenny Bruce's life towards the end of his life, and that was every stand-up thing he did was about the law towards the end. And he was doing a show one night. George Carlin was there, underage, and George said something, and they were waiting. They pounced on him, and then they went through the crowd, ID, ID, ID. "Oh, come here, youngster." And they handcuffed them together. So I said, "And that's how you met Lenny Bruce, right?" He said, "No, I had met him before." But he said, "Like, we were literally one pair of handcuffs together."
Wow.
Just like the book. But I thought that's not how we met. I said, "So how'd you guys meet?" He said, "Lenny Bruce was very sympathetic to young comics. So what we would do is, like, he said, 'Give me your best 5 minutes,' and he would critique us."
Wow.
I said, "Is he trying to take your material?" He said, No. He said, like, "Okay, leave that part out. That part sucks. Do more of that. And that first part, put it last." He would like help. Wow. And he said he was great with all the young comics. He said, like, "Give me your stuff. Okay, here's how you redo it. Make it better." I said, "So you had known him before?" He said, "Yeah." I said, because, Lenny Bruce to me is a real, again, a hero, an inspiration. He fought back. And I walked out of there into the freezing, East New York to take the N or the R back down to the East Village. But the fact that here's this guy, the point I'm making is Stone Cold Pro, anywhere where I sell out half the tickets, he does 20 nights there. You'll never get out of that shadow. And even he is saying, "Hey, I have a question."
Yeah.
And here's what I've found with all of your big actors and the ones I've worked with, they are obedient to the muse. They work for the art. They are so subservient to the job. It's not about, "Hey, I'm rich, I'm popular." It's like, "Damn it, I got to make this script come to life."
Right.
And they fear it like someone on their first job. And there might have been a middle period, like in the 70s, they had their idiot phase for 3 years and they kind of went sideways. But man, the big actors I've worked with are just so like, okay, this take is everything. And it's a good lesson. You're like, okay, never lose that.
Yeah, because that's what you have when you're young and you're coming up and you're starting to show promise.
Yep.
And somewhere along the line, it seems like some people get into this mindset that they deserve it.
Yeah.
And when they deserve it, it's a terrible thing that happens to comedians. There's something that happens to comedians when they can't relate to people anymore and they stop being relevant. And by George waiting in line to see you outside in the cold shows that he never really got to that place, that bad place. And he was probably the most prolific stand-up of all time.
Because he never stopped.
He would do a fresh HBO hour every year. Every year. He would just sit down and he would write it all. he would write it all out, and then he would just kind of fine tune it, sort of like you were saying you do. And they would fine tune it and performance after performance, and then put it on HBO, and then start work on the next one, and then just crank them out.
Yeah, I was told by someone who had him at his venue in Northern California, he just sits in front of the mirror before the show and does the whole show at hyperspeed in a low voice.
Wow. Oh, just
I did that on a TV show once. Me and the actors, it was one of the actors' ideas. Like, okay, everyone in my trailer, and we did the whole show at hyperspeed in a low voice, standing in a huddle. It was really cool because we were just like in each other's face going, oh, no, that's funny. And we just kind of did it like this like crazy mumbling fest for like 20 minutes. And we're like, okay.
We got it.
And we went out there and did it. It was like live in front of a TV audience. And it was like, I'd never done that before. It was really cool. And apparently that's how George preps.
Wow, that's interesting. I don't know anybody else who does that. Most people don't even look at themselves. They don't stand in front of a mirror. They just
I don't look at
practice in front
myself,
of the audience.
but I do one thing that actually works. I pace, and I quote Lincoln speeches.
What?
As a centering exercise.
Really?
Yeah. Especially his speech from like January 19th, 1838.
Give me some.
It's a famous speech. He said when he was talking about will America ever be taken over by anywhere else. And he said, no, the only way America is going to fall is from within. So he said, should we fear some transatlantic giant to cross the ocean and crush us at a blow? Never. All the countries, Asia, Europe, and Africa, with their war chests combined, ours, with the treasures of the world, our own accepted, and Bonaparte as a commander could not, in a trial of 1,000 years, so much as take a sip from the Ohio River or lay a tread on the Blue Ridge Mountains. If destruction be our lot, we must either live through all time or die by suicide. And I just take chunks of that speech because he's like 28, 29 years of age. He's so eloquent. A sentence of Lincoln is worth 10 of anyone else's. It's all online for free. But go to it's called The Speech to the Young Men's Lyceum, or the Perpetuation of Our Government Institutions. And it's like 3,200 words. And it'll be the best thing you read this week.
And how does it work as a centering exercise?
I don't know. I just get in the Lincoln framework where words matter to him. He's a lawyer and a politician, so he's a double bastard. I was in the vault of the Lincoln Museum in Springfield a few years ago. They let me in. And they pull out one of his beaver skin top hats, and they won't let me touch it. Of course, I didn't try, but the guy with the gloves pulls it out, and he said, "Do you notice an indentation on the right side of the brim?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "What do you think that is?" I said, "Let me guess. There's one on top and two underneath." And I looked, and there was. I said, "That's him doffing his cap, his hat, over and over again till it wears out the beaver skin." And he said, "Yeah." "How do you think he wore it out?" I said, "He's a politician and a lawyer. So he's trying to get everyone's vote and win." So he's like, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Because I have an office and I'm running for office. And he said, "Yeah, that's probably it." And
that's funny. They used to use beaver skin to line their hats, right?
Yeah. Well, it was the outside of it. And it's those famous hats you saw him in. But at the Lincoln Museum, they have one in the vault. And literally, he wore out the hide.
Wow.
But I use Lincoln and amendments from the Constitution. The 14th is it's in like 4 parts or 5 parts. It's the top parts for we the people. The rest is legalese. And I'll do that, or the 4th Amendment, the privacy one. That's a great one. It's not completely in the front of my brain pan, but I carry a copy of the Constitution with me whenever I travel, and I open it like people open the Bible, and I'll just pick an amendment and read it.
Really?
Yeah, and I have one of those, the Constitution for Idiot books, where like lawyers write about, here's when it was brought into law, here's why, here's what it means in layman terms, and it's never not interesting to read. The Constitution's great.
It is fascinating. We think this is an experiment in self-government that these people from 300 years ago put together.
It's kind of they kind of are gods to me, in that they couldn't see the future. Maybe they couldn't see the AR-15, but Jefferson and company definitely saw how easily corruptible humans are.
Yeah,
you give them a little bit of power, we can get a little crazy. And American democracy is really all about the checks. You're a badass, but you're not as badass as Congress. Congress is going to check you.
We're seeing that with Trump. I mean, with Trump, we're essentially seeing the reason why all these checks and balances are put in place in the first place.
Yeah,
because
for guys like him.
Yeah,
because a president comes from we the people. It can be you or me, potentially. And I think the framers really saw that. Like, it should be from the people. So we got to put this person in checks, because he might be a failed businessman, bad reality show actor who doesn't understand, I have to read 1,500 pages of stuff this weekend and have 5 lawyers advise me. No golf or fun for me. I'm the president. And a lot of presidents do understand before they go in, like, boy, this job's going to be boring. And a lot of people are going to be mad. And in my lifetime, we finally have a president who really is from the people, who says, he looks at, like, here's 8 folders of stuff to read. I'm like, I don't think so. Give me the Cliff Notes.
Yeah.
Like, I'll play it from the hip. Like, no.
I'm going to watch Fox and Friends. You tell me what I need to know.
Yeah, and it's not for me to sit and rip on the guy, because he's not here to defend himself. But never in my life have I ever watched an American president and thought to myself, I could have done better in that situation. And there's presidents I've had nothing but disagreement with, but they were way better for the job than I ever could be. I look at this guy and go like, man, you just got played. And there's something, when I knew I was going to be talking to you, there's a thing I was thinking about. Because I heard you speak many years ago about these politicians are gangster. He said, like, okay, what that guy did, that's gangsta. And what this guy just did, straight up gangsta. It was during the Bush administration. Mm-hmm. You were just, I think it was like Halliburton, all these people, the Cheney world. And you're like, that's a gangster move. That's a gangster move. I'm like, I can't disagree with anything he just said. And on that kind of level, I think what I never hear is that Donald Trump is a guy who gets consistently got rolled by his wife, a woman I have nothing against, but she comes from a really tough part of the world. Slovenia, that's just a rough patch of real estate. She's smart and she's tough, and she got out. Got to America, well, he's not much on looks, but it's a way in from the storm. So he got played by his wife. He got played by Paul Manafort. He got played by Kim Jong-un. He got played like Jimi Hendrix at Monterey, that particular Stratocaster by Vladimir Putin, and gets played like Rachmaninoff every single day. And anyone he does high stakes business with or negotiations, he gets played. And Manafort just used him to try and, get out of debt. And all these other people, they just roll all over him. And unfortunately, his hubris is such. He's like, ha. Like, no, dude, you just got blown out. And like everyone around you is playing you.
Well, he probably doesn't feel that way with Manafort, because Manafort's on trial and he's not yet.
Right. But Manafort played him, because Manafort really does play in that world of oligarchs and millions of dollars and laundering money. If he wrote a book, I was telling someone the other day, I said, of all these people, he should write the book, because it would be a page turner. If he told the truth, it would get him killed. He'd touch the wrong doorknob, and he'd get the poison. Because like Putin can't have him telling what he knows. He's a man, he probably will go to prison. Watch him have some kind of strange accident. Like he was liquefied in the shower. Something about the water, because he knows a lot, and there's a lot of people who can pay a lot of money to keep his mouth shut.
Yeah, well, you know what's fascinating to me is that over the last year or two, especially from the Fox crew, you're seeing Vladimir Putin admired.
Yep.
It's very strange. I never thought we would see that.
I was watching something a couple of years ago, about a year ago, and I was like, some guy, well, he's a good Christian man and he believes in family. I'm like, he's the butcher of Chechnya.
Yeah.
Let's flash back to the 1960s. I'm a young boy on the weekend visit with my father. To the right of my father is a wall. There's nothing to the right of my father, just nothing. And if he's still with us, he'd be in his 90s and hard as a rock, just like nothing. He's a bar of hickory. Anyway, he's an economist. He's a numbers guy and a PhD, real smart. I'm coming home to my mom's apartment from the Saturday, Sunday visit with Dad. We're in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm a little boy, 5 years old, somewhere around there, very small. Economist and communist. I don't know what either of them are, arguably, to a 5-year-old. Kind of sounds the same. I'm in the big Buick station wagon to my father's right. We're pulling up to Mom's apartment. Henry, Dad, are you a communist? I don't think my father's facial expression changed. His right hand came off the wheel and his backhand collided with my head. It was just like, I hear the word communist, a boy gets smacked. And it was without hatred or violence. It was like national security. Like, whack! He didn't even know he did it. It was like a sneeze, like kapow. And it hurt so much my head went numb. And it was not even the pain. It was like the shock of your dad whacking you with you had no idea what you did. And all I could do was hyperventilate. And he opened the door and he let me out. He didn't say a word.
He didn't tell you that there's a difference between a communist and an economist?
No, sir. So I left the guy till I was like 33. You
What
know,
the fuck?
You know what I mean? Because it's so destabilizing. Like your dad
Right.
just walloped you, and I get out of the elevator, I go into the apartment, Mom,
Right,
but
yeah.
I did that till I was like, till 2 years ago. It was totally, she said, honey, what happened? I said, I asked Dad if he was a communist. She's like, okay. So the point I'm making is this. There's a bunch of people who voted for Trump where you say Russia, they say bunch of sons of bitches, trust them as far as you can throw your car. Are you kidding? And when I see staunch conservative Republicans going, well, that Putin guy, I'm like, are you kidding? People like my dad's heads are exploding. He's an old Cold War guy. We would watch Boris and Natasha, whatever that cartoon was.
Bullwinkle.
As a kid, I'm laughing because the guy went, my dad's laughing on a whole other level because it's Cold War funnies. It was written for the parents. So the kids get the cartoon. The parents got the jokes. That was for adults with their kids on Saturday. You watch them later on, you're like, oh, this is Cold War humor. I wouldn't have known. That's my dad's world. You say Russia, he'd probably hate my guts because I've been there 6 times for shows. And to take the Trans-Siberian Express. And so this warming up to a guy who is a true bad guy, he's scary. There's bodies buried because of him.
He's one of the scariest guys on the planet.
And capably violent and will have you taken out. I mean, like Anna Politkovskaya, one of the greatest journalists of our time. She was critical of Putin and she got assassinated in her apartment building. Her books are great. Her books from Chechnya are amazing. And like she was critical of him and she had to go. And when you see our president cozying up to this guy, I just want to go, bro, let's talk. Like, let's take a walk in the garden for 20 minutes. You can't be friends with this guy. My theory is there's some kind of finances where he's got to stick up for him. I don't think it's a tape of people urinating on anyone. I think it's just
That would
money.
be too cliche.
Too interesting. It's a money thing. It's a hotel deal. It's money sitting in Cyprus. It's something. But the fact that we're becoming okay with this guy, that is the part that bugs me the most. And why people in Congress or a guy like Sean Hannity, who like probably likes communists as much as my dad, even me, I don't trust people like that at all. Putin is a criminal. Should be in jail for 1 billion years. And the fact, like, hey, he's a when
He's
Trump,
a strong leader.
he's a human being. We can talk. Like, gosh, he's an ex-KGB guy who.
And there's no such thing as an ex-KGB guy.
Right. Yeah.
They're
I know.
KGB for life.
Yeah, for life. And he's a supreme operative. And what he does is he rolls people like you, dude. And like, God, you are a guppy. He's a shark. Like, no, 2 guys hanging out. No, 1 guy getting played and 1 guy playing someone.
I think he admires the fact that Putin's able to run his country the way he does, too.
Yes, and that's why he likes Duterte and Un. And I've been to...
That's what he said about Un. He said he's a strong head.
And
He
I've
goes,
been
he
to all those
stands up,
countries. I've been to the Philippines. I've been to North Korea. They're tough places to live. And like, you don't want your country looking like those places. You don't want America to be like Russia. The economy is destroyed. And there's a lot of people, like in the wintertime, it's really tough.
How do you think this
Seeing
plays
the
out? Do you
homeless.
think he goes to jail?
No, because I don't believe in karma. Karma. Here's my 2 words that disprove karma. Dick Cheney.
He's got a new heart.
And a new heart. He has no pulse, which is perfect.
Well, he's got a pulse now with the new heart.
Okay, because
the machine, he had
I knew
no
he had
pulse.
the machine, and
Yeah.
he just heard a whoosh.
Yeah.
Which is like what's perfect for him.
Yeah.
Like,
It's in the Bible.
He may very well live because he looks like he's watching his weight now. He's like looking lean. He might live to be like 105. And so he'll never go to jail. And like, how many millions does he make a year just from his dividends from whatever? Like, who knows what you do with that kind of money? I don't know what you do with it. And so I don't think he goes to jail. I don't think Jared Kushner goes to jail. I think at most they leave, like maybe next year, and they go like, I drained the swamp. I did what I came here to do, and the fake news media brought me down, and all his people buy one of everything he makes forever. Steak, vodka.
I think it's possible that Donald Trump Jr. goes to jail. It's very possible. They're talking about perjury charges against him now because his own dad admitted on Twitter.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I follow all that stuff as you do.
Yeah.
I just don't think white-collar guys go to prison for stuff. I just don't believe it. You know, I just don't believe it. I want to be proven wrong. But I don't have all the facts. I'm a news watcher. I know nothing. I don't get any classified briefs. So I only know what I read and what I hear.
Do you talk about any of this stuff in your stage act?
A little bit, but knowing my audience, they're very sharp and they read. They're readers. And they don't need me repeating what they
Things
know
they
back
already
to them.
know. Right.
And so,
Well, good for you for that.
if I make a point, as my dad used to say, you want to score, hit them where they ain't, the baseball idea. And so if I can make a point, like if I was on stage tonight talking about Trump, I would roll out that idea of Trump is a guy who's been played by so many people around him, and no one talks about his wife playing him. Like there's no love in that marriage, I don't think. She saw a way out, came to New York and went, that guy.
Yeah.
Gets naked with the toad a few nights a month, handful of Prozac, some Stoli, and a credit card and a 7-figure expense account. You can take a shower and make it go away.
Yeah.
So I think he kind of knows that, you know, she was not like, wow, what a hot guy. She's like, hey, and there's, you know, that happens a lot in this town. You'll see that, you know, the couple, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Harvey Weinstein, before his wife left him, Harvey Weinstein's wife was beautiful.
Well, yeah, but you see that a lot in this town where you see the old weird dude with like the 8-year-old girlfriend. You're like, oh yeah, that's a setup. That's an agency. That's an agreement.
Yeah.
That's someone's getting a salary or an implied. You know, there's some kind of quid pro quo. There's a credit card.
Sure.
There's an expense account, or there's just a big fistful of hundreds, and just let me chew on you for the next 4 weeks. You know what I mean? Or whatever the agreement is.
Right.
And I so if I was going to say anything about Donald Trump on stage, it would be, he sucks. And I never talk about any problem on stage. And I learned this from, of all people, President Clinton. Because some of his later speeches post-presidency, I'm not a huge fan of the guy, but he's a good speaker. And he did some speeches in the UK a few years ago, and I happened to be in England when he was there, and I watched him on TV. The last part of his speech, the last 10 minutes was, here's a problem, and here's 3 solutions. Here's another problem, here's 3 solutions. We're like, for $60 million, we could put internet through this thing, or we could open this waterway, or we could reconfigure this workforce to upgrade so everyone can get a paycheck. He just had logical ways forward. So what I took from that is, to my audience, don't propose a problem. Well, he sucks, thanks, good night.
Right.
Don't give him a Gordian knot unless you can go, actually, it's not a Gordian knot. Here's 3 ways to get out of this burning wreck. And so, like when Trump became elected, I was on tour. I was doing a bunch of nights in L.A., and I said, okay, you have a new president, and some of you are depressed. I said, I know. And so gay people are on the endangered species list as if they've never been. Brown people, black people, women people, people with ovaries. These are all on the you're screwed list. So instead of becoming depressed and oh no, we get up, we start doing more benefits. Now all your words matter, your actions matter. How you stick up for your LGBT friends really matters now. How you stick up for women, how you stick up for racial equality in the workplace, like how you check yourself when you voulez-vous with other people. Words matter, actions matter more than ever. And so to me, it's an exciting time to show how great you can be, because now it's all on the line. The fat is off the land. We're being tested. I love a test, so let's get it on. It's like in your line of work when the guy goes, "Here we go."
Yeah.
That's how I saw it. Like, okay, let's get the money to the ACLU. Let's get some money to Planned Parenthood. Let's get a conversation going about child suicide, intimidation through Facebook. Let's start making things better because this guy is not our ally. Government's not necessarily going to help. At its best, it's inactive. At its worst, it's divisive and predatory. So let's be the antidote by being cool, by not throwing rocks through windows or like you getting a guy with a tiki torch and beating him up. Come on. You're never going to convince that guy that he's wrong. So get to the people you agree with and let's start sticking together more and raising more money and get some more interesting people in office. Let's get some young people in office. And I think that's what's happening. Like you're seeing all these young people, like 20s, 30s. Sadly, there's a bunch of kids who died at a high school in Florida. But look what happened. Look at all those kids hitting the streets. Look at all these kids who, through cell phones and selfies and Instagram and Snapchat, they're already ready for prime time. You see these high school juniors in front of a CNN camera going, "Hi, I'm 17 years old. This happened to my school. And next year I'm going to vote. And here's what's going to happen. And here's the march I'm starting." Like, uh-oh, that's a future senator. That school shooting just birthed a voting demographic. Are you kidding? All those kids are going to vote. All of them. All those kids who marched, there's going to be no millennial apathy with those kids. They're all going to vote. I kind of have an idea what side they're going to vote with. And if you think you're going to sell those kids on their grandfather's drunken homophobia, racism, and just overall bigotry and xenophobia, you're wrong. He never had a passport. I don't need to travel. I don't want to meet some damn Mexican. Trust me, the kid's going to travel. He's going to go to India. She's going to go to Colombia and meet other people and get a more global sense of the world, a sense of water, food, energy, where it comes from, what happens with money, what happens with mediocrity, the danger of it. So I think we're in for some tough times, but I think they're going to lead to good times. And so that's, if I get political on stage, all I say is like, here's 5 ways forward. Because the despair part, you need me to tell you? You watch the news. So don't get down in the mouth. Start burning more calories. And that's not my job, but I would never weigh in on stage any other way about that stuff because all I would be is obvious. And my audience is pretty sharp, and they don't need to be told twice.
Outstanding.
Thank you, sir.
Well said. I couldn't agree more. Friday night, Showtime, August 10th. Henry motherfucking Rollins. Keep talking. Keep talking, pal.
Pal.
Keep talking, pal. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
That was great.